KBEV is going live on air in 30 seconds. All right, thanks for your patience. KBEV is going live on air in 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and welcome to our January 31st, 2023 regular scheduled board meeting, although I'm sure there's not going to be anything regular about it. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask our former colleague Nusha Mashkadi to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To make somebody make a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Made by Dr. Stern, seconded by Mrs. Wells. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Which is actually going to be 4-0, as Mrs. Marcus was out of the room for the moment. Too late. We appreciate your approval, though. Report of closed session action, Dr. Breggy.
Yes, thank you, President Margot. The board has voted 5-0 in favor of approving OAH case 2022-110634.
Thank you very much. And now we move on to our teacher spotlight.
So I'm excited this evening to kick off our teacher spotlight, and I'd like to introduce our coordinator of elementary education, Maggie Mayberry. And Mrs. Sarah Kaber, principal at Hawthorne.
We have quite a few shout outs that we'd like to provide to you all around the idea of elementary mathematics. We've really been working with the amazing teachers here and their hard work, doing optional professional developments, going to conferences, and now leading a whole new team with the leadership with a team of almost 20 or 24 teachers here in the district on, what is our idea of excellence in education and mathematics? So our first one was on January 18th. We had 19 elementary teachers sign up for an after-school professional development.
Can you wait 1 second?
Yes.
There we go. Okay.
On a topic called a 3-act task. And if you haven't heard of a 3-act task, it's super fun, really highly engaging for students, and really the spotlight gets taken away from the teacher. So the first thing we do is we engage and we inquire with the kids, we seek solutions, and then we discuss and reveal. So we did some examples of this, talked about it, and then actually gave time to our teachers to go ahead and build their own 3-act task, in which they've been doing all over the school. And so here are the names of our amazing educators, kindergarten through 5th grade: Joyce Medway, Lisa Beeler, Gabby Painter, Amy Whitney, Janine Erickson, Jumi Conway, Nicole Green, Tracy McGregor, Cami Mosby, Maria Stam, I'm a Greek and I'm not going to say that one, Lizette Martinez, Marianne Armand, Nicole Sneidelwin, Bella Kaufman, Joel Wheeler, and Kevin Repich. So thank you to all of those that attended. They had a really great time, and we might even have a part 2 going on soon.
Amazing.
Also, recently we had Kim Sutton came to Horace Mann, and Hawthorne got invited. Craig wanted to be here. Craig Bugme, the principal of Horace Mann, wanted to be here tonight, but he wasn't able to join us. He asked that we talk about Kim Sutton, which all of the Horace Mann teachers spent time during their school day working with her on standards-based, engaging mathematics, games, tools, lots of manipulatives, and then there were some after-school pieces where some of our teachers came together, both Horace Mann and Hawthorne, so a huge shout out to those teachers: Joyce Medway, Carly Dugas, Juliette Goldstein, Annette Goldstein, Amy Arabello, Trina Arth, Gabby Painter, Janine Erickson, Mary Morgenstern, Cami Mosby, Afi Delejani, Stacy Varela, Joel Wheeler, Michelle Duffy, and Emily Hurst. But there's more.
I know, and I gave a misinformation. Is we had 12 BHUSD employees attend Stanford last week, and we went to the U-Cubed conference. And at this time, we were presented with information about the big ideas in elementary mathematics. And so here, not only did they give up a couple of hours, but they actually flew across the state and stayed overnight. Leslie Anderson, who's here, bravo. Kim Timmerman, Tanya Guerrero, Nicole Sneidelman, Lisa Beeler, Lizette Martinez, Maria Stam, Kevin Repich, and Dr. Michael Sherman all attended this, along with Mrs. Caver, myself, and Mrs. Molly Wang. So we had a great time learning from some of the best. And there are actually 168 total attendees at this conference, and we were 12 of them. So that's a pretty big amount that we had in the crowd. It was awesome to see. We took up more than one table. It was awesome.
So while we were there, part of like the things that are sticking with us and making us think about it is about how do we provide really rich instruction in math, really rich language around math talks, and having conversations with like low floor, high ceiling questions around math, giving students opportunity to extend their thinking. So I know you guys are really at the beginning of your meeting, but I'm gonna ask you to participate in a 4th grade math talk. 4th grade for you, Mr. Margot. So here is the question up there. Can you see it? Everyone can participate.
And you could work together if you'd like.
Hold on, let's go
You
backwards.
can talk.
Yeah, let's work together and talk. Sorry, there we go. So there's 2 trees, tree A and tree B, and they started at 2 meters and 3 meters. And then over the course of 3 years, they grew. Tree A became 5 meters and tree B became 6 meters. So the question is, which tree grew more? Take a few minutes to talk to each other, talk to a friend, use some tools.
You can use your calculators on your phone. We won't change that. We all did at the conference.
So just while you're thinking, we can share that this is a 4th grade standard about additive comparison and multiplicative comparison. So anyone want to share what you think? There's not like...
I'm going to turn it to our board member, our student board member.
Oh, but she just got into Georgetown. I mean, come on. At least wait a minute, at least let an adult like me try.
I know how to choose my partners well.
That's right. I'd like to embarrass myself before you make us all proud, if you don't mind. I say both trees grew the same in the same period. So the answer would be, which tree grew more? Neither. Than the other.
Do we have another thought or another opinion, or do we agree with Mr. Margot? Go ahead.
I think B grew more because by percentage it doubled, whereas A didn't quite double. I mean 40%. I mean 40%. Yeah.
Great. Do we have another feeling about it? Yeah.
I said A because from 2 to 5, that's a 2.5 increase percentage-wise, and from 3 to 6 for B, that's only a double increase. So.
Great. Anybody from anywhere else want to say? Dr. Breggy, you want to have an opinion?
You know, Mr. Margot is my partner.
What did he say, Mr. Martin?
Good deal. So part of this is that there's no right answer, right? And so if you look at it and say that you're doing an additive comparison and both trees grew 3 meters, you're totally right. But if you want to do a multiplicative comparison, which might be a more advanced level of thinking, then
Georgetown.
Tree A grew more in that going from 2 meters to 5 meters is a 1.5 or 150%, and going from B is 3 meters to 6 meters is 100% growth. So that's just an example of the type of thinking that we did while we were gone, but also the type of thinking that we're trying to bring back into our classroom, engaging student-led conversations and questioning.
If you
Mrs.
can
Marcus.
imagine what this looked like in 4th grade, like how many of them have like comments, and this could take an entire hour, of all excitement.
In learning to do something like this, they need the skills previous to this to get to this type of thinking. So I'm hoping that they get that as well. I mean, I love this type of math, and as you know, I'm all for math. So
Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you.
That's the end, unless you have questions for us.
We just want you to stay tuned. We're going to have lots more conversations coming your way about mathematics.
Well, thank you for attending and taking the time to attend. I really appreciate it. I love to hear that we've had such great participation in the professional development and such positive feedback that it's been worthwhile. At least that's the feedback that I've been hearing. So I look forward to seeing this now filter through to all the other teachers and seeing it get put into practice, and for you to have more of these. So thank you for doing it. I appreciate it.
Same, no comment other than thank you for your enthusiasm.
We love it.
Yeah, we're excited.
well, I just want to thank you again for this presentation. And what I really want to say is that I'm hoping that what you got out of this is being shared with the rest of the teachers in the district, because it can't stop there. We've got to infuse them with the fun and loving that math can bring, as well as learning and thinking. So I'm hoping that what you got up there has been brought back to the other teachers and will be shared in professional development. So thank you again, and I love seeing you, and keep it up. I'm hoping it keep it up.
Nothing to add, but thank you. That was fun.
I appreciate you both exposing that I'm good at basic 4th grade math, and that's my problem, having been a 4th grade teacher. That's my mindset, and allowing me once again to make Alex look wonderful. Anytime, Alex. It's all good.
And I just have a question. If you had a chance to meet Joe Bowler, as a former math teacher myself, you did get a chance to meet her. Wow.
We kind of touched her too.
Yeah,
We
that's
put our arms
amazing.
around her for a picture. It was
Good
pretty
for
cool.
you.
Yeah, it was exciting.
She has a whole team. There's a whole team up there at Stanford that's been pretty amazing.
She's amazing.
And we've had a lot of conversations as we've come back already, like on both campuses, and we're going to do a brief debrief between the 2 campuses from all of the different PDs.
What's math got to do with it?
Yeah.
One more thing. Are you planning more? Are there other developments like this that are coming along that we'll be able to have the teachers share with, and so on, besides this one? Are there any other
Yes.
Yeah, actually at the 3-act task one, we asked for some suggestions of things that the teachers are looking for, and so now we have like a list of ideas, and kind of putting together some presentations for in writing and reading and all the subjects.
Great, thank you.
I just also wanted to say thank you for making learning conceptual math so important. Just from personal experience, learning math conceptually has helped me connect it to different subjects that I'm learning. I think just from the tree example, you can connect it to science, you can connect it to physics, really whatever. So just thank you for that.
Yeah,
amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the consent calendar minus item 8C.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Mrs. Marcus seconded. I moved. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Let's look at item 8C.
Approve the agreement with Lift Tech Elevator Services Incorporated for the elevator repair at Beverly Hills High School.
Thank you.
I need a second.
I'll make a second.
Thank you. Mrs. Marcus made the motion. Mrs. Wells made the second.
You did?
Both of you pulled it, so
I will defer to Mrs. Marcus.
you can take it outside.
No, you pulled it first.
All right.
No, you go.
Okay. I
You
pulled
too.
this one because I had the question, and I just want to make sure that we are not spending money if in fact we don't need to, because I was wondering, as we've often had discussions of where the maintenance and operations were going to go, and I felt that maybe we're repairing something, and thank you, I forgot. And if it's something that needs to be done, I found it is totally unoperational. It's totally ineffective and everything else. But they've been operating without it. And do they need to have it repaired, number one? And number two, is maintenance and operation going to stay there necessitating its repair? Then I would have no objection to it.
Go ahead, Mr. Guzman.
Thank you, Dr. Brady and board members. Yes, so this item, which you're referring to, 8C, the approval of agreement with Liftech, is for the repair of the freight elevator. And so essentially that is something that we do need, essentially, to be able to move our products more quickly. Right now we're not able to do that as easily as we would want, and it's creating some issues for us. So we're trying to fix this. So right now the elevator is completely non-functional. It's not working, and so it's a very complicated elevator, and so we have different companies looking at it and trying to fix it. So you kind of have a picture of it. It's the freight elevator that's located in the tunnel at the high school. So that's where that one is, and it's going to take about 6 to 10 weeks to build the actual item we need once the contract is approved. So once you approve it, it's going to take about 6 to 10 weeks for it to even be built. But we do need that, and it does have to go through some other items. It has to be tested by the state and all those other things. But it's something that we need definitely for multiple different reasons in regards to just different departments that utilize it as well as students.
How much of a handicap is it to us right now then? I mean, it must be, it's non-functional right now. It must be very difficult for them to be without that elevator.
It is very difficult. And the reason that it hasn't been fixed again is because it's so complicated. It's so unique that we need, this process, we're going to have to build something very very special to get it to work and then troubleshoot it. So it's not even something that we can just order. It's something that has to be manufactured. And in order to even have that drive system manufactured, it's going to take 6 to 10 weeks for that to happen. And then after that, it still has to be tested. Hopefully that works, and then we go from there. And I wish there was just a way for us to just take all of that out and just put in a brand new elevator, but unfortunately that's not how these things work.
And there is something about elevators that are different from anything else that we have to do repairs on, and it just is like this everywhere, where it's so complicated, and there's the kind of checklists that have to be put into place that you have to check each box, and if something's not matching up, you have to start all over again. You have to call people in from outside to come in. So not only is it the part and the repair, but then it's also going through the checklist to get that, approved, by the elevator people that do that kind of work. So it is something that we need, but it is something that just every time we had this cycle several years ago, if you remember, some people on the board, similar problems with elevators, and nothing's down for just a few weeks.
How long has this elevator been inoperable?
I don't have that exact time frame, but I think it's been approximately. I know it predates me, so I could definitely get back to you.
I was just curious.
Yes.
When we were doing the tour of the high school, I thought that where the ASB building is, there was also an elevator that.
There is. That one is working.
As well. That's working now, and that's a new elevator.
Yes, the one that goes up into the ASB room area.
In
yes.
B2?
Yeah, that's a new elevator.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted you to come up and talk about it just because I think that, just as you said, elevators are complicated, but I think we always see elevators, repairs are costs for elevators from, I think, is it GMS was a previous subcontractor that we've used?
That sounds familiar.
But there's a lot of elevator costs, so I'm just curious if what the genesis of.
Yeah, and our staff and our students are being great. I mean, I know that we've had to move some classrooms around to make some accommodations, and people have been really responsive and respectful. But I know that that's wearing. We'd like to be able to at least give a timeline, even though it's going to be one that's a little longer than what we would hoped.
Right. Like I remember we decommissioned an elevator at one point.
Yes.
And then built a new one. Was that at El Rodeo?
It was trying to think of where that was, but there was another situation where there was like parts had to be made that were not original parts because we were replacing some parts that weren't original. And I'm trying to think of what building that was. I'd have to go back and look. But we've done it before.
I could go back and look and get that information. But for this specific one, it would be extremely helpful. We really do need it. And again, it's one of those things that they have to actually, the same situation, they have to build that part and then install it and then get it tested. But it will be a huge benefit to our students and staff.
And then there was also a question that was posed from Mrs. Marcus about where M&O is going, and I think I'll hold that question until we do the construction update.
Okay.
So I was going to say, to answer that question before, I do recall using that elevator last semester. So it did operate after you were here.
Okay.
Freight elevator. It was operating last semester. I don't know
think
what
there
times
was-
it was offline, but there were some periods that, because I was in it. So
Yeah, I think there was some issues with it throughout that time.
well,
So
thank goodness I wasn't trapped. Elevators are always bringing us down, right? Okay. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to Alex, you're up.
Okay, so my report today is kind of a mix of things that have happened throughout the month of January and then also a lot of upcoming events for February. First thing is on January 18th, we had our annual Beverly's Got Talent show. And I just wanted to show you some pictures. BVMS graciously let us use their auditorium. And a huge congratulations to our winners. First place was Soyeon Kim, second place Naomi Strauss, and third place the Spice Girls, Ori Cohen-Rob, Mika Pomerantz, Emily Gorin, Skylar Hodes, and Maria Ostapenko. And then, of course, our annual BHHS open house for Beverly families, and, of course, the incoming 8th grade families and students. And these are just some photos from that event. And again, a special thank you to the student groups on campus who helped make the entire event run smoothly and a lot of fun for everyone. Thank you to Culinary for providing delicious food, ASB for helping guide families throughout the event and for selling BHHS merch, and for KBEV, of course, for hosting interviews and filming the entire event as well. And then this Sunday was the Mayor's Mental Health Wellness Series event, focusing on teen mental health wellness. And I just wanted to share how huge a part Beverly BHUSD students were at this event. They were just a huge part of making the event possible. Many BHUSD students are part of the Teen Advisory Committee, which helped plan the event. Teen Line, as well as Norman Aid and Bulldog Aid, of course. So these are just a few photos, courtesy of KBEV's Colby Gilardian. A couple more photos. The board, you can see some board members up there. And then just some upcoming events in February. First, we have a bunch of fundraisers going on for all the grade levels here at the high school, as well as ASB in general, starting tonight, actually, and throughout February. A couple more. And then last but not least, tomorrow begins the first day of our annual Dance Company Show 2023. And Dance Company and Miss Finley have asked me to read out a message that they would like to share to the community. Dance Company wanted to personally invite the Board of Education, District Administration, and the entire BHUSD community to the Dance Company 2023 concert on February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at 7 p.m. at the Saban. Dance Company also wanted to thank the Board, Administration, BHEF, and PTSA for all its support. It's going to be an incredible concert. That's it.
Thank you, Alex. I think for every one of those food fundraisers you guys have, you should do like a Peloton fundraiser afterwards, like in between, like Burger Lounge, Peloton, Chipotle, yoga. You know, we got to balance it out there. Any questions for Alex? Okay. Thank you.
No, but thank you very much.
Dr. Breggy.
I want to just make one little comment about the fact that the preview of the dance show that they did at Beverly Vista Middle School this week does a great deal to encourage the kids to keep up with the dance that they're doing, and also become members of the dance company and to attend the dance show. And I think that was one of the things that was really great, was putting it out there for the kids at the middle school to see. I don't know if they went to the elementary schools, but if they did it, I hope they will. They did. Thank you. I letting them know. We talk about our pathways. This is a pathway. So thank you. And again, Alex, great report. I loved hearing from you.
Thank you all. Dr. Berge?
Yes, thank you very much. Just going to get this up momentarily. Thank you, Ricky and Josh. So good evening. I really enjoy being able to share the progress in our school district when it comes to our construction program. And we're going to be able to provide you with a lot of new information this evening when we talk about an update as it relates to construction. We have kind of settled into giving regular updates, and we're going to be looking at doing the quarterly updates with our construction team, which you'll be hearing this evening. And then we'd like to propose, our cabinet and team would like to propose doing something a little bit different. We had, in the past, we had committees that were formed, and that created lots of questions about what is the charge and how do we get more public input. And so our cabinet sat down and we talked about what kind of process could we create so that we have more of an opportunity to reach more people that just not tuning into a board meeting, somebody that would like to ask some questions. So we as a cabinet would like to be able to propose to our board that instead of that committee structure, that we have more of a structure like the town hall structure where we can have people come in and also have people online, because that's become a regular resource for people, and it's really convenient for some people while other people would like to come in. So we were thinking about doing something like May, November for some town hall access, but that would give the community access to come in to look at the progress, but also then ask questions as well, and it could be moderated as hybrid in person, but also for those people that would like to attend the meeting as well. And that's in addition to the quarterly updates that we're providing you with now. And this is about 10 times more information than we are used to presenting and sharing and getting input. So we're actually looking forward to having an opportunity to get more people involved and more people to ask questions along the way than we would if we would have kept a smaller committee structure, which tends to benefit usually the people in the committee. So that's something that we'd like to run by our Board of Education moving forward. Also, later on our agenda, you're going to hear a little bit about Senate Bill 906. And this is a school safety bill that was signed by Governor Newsom back in July of 2022. The progress of this bill is that they're working on a lot of the educational content pieces of this, and it's going to come up on our agenda. So what I wanted to be able to do is just give you a little bit of background about what the obligations are. Oftentimes when Senate bills are passed or there's unfunded mandates, there's always something that comes along with it. This is actually a pretty good one for us that is not a costly one. The first obligation to the district under this Senate bill would be that it's a notification process that we would be sending to all of our parents in all grade levels. And it's related to just gun safety. If you have guns, how do you protect yourselves? How do you protect your children in the home, guests, and things like that? This is going to be information, again, that's put out. I know the California Department of Education is involved. They're looking at getting the content part of this for school districts, and then we are required to send that out, and that is in the beginning of the 2023 school year. The other obligation for this Senate bill for school districts across the state is that there's a requirement now, and the requirement is 6th through 12th grade. However, we've been doing this, so you have to, you're required to report when there are threats happening, students making threats, that you actually involve your local police department. And I'm really proud to say that that is a practice that we have done, even though in the bill it's a 6th through 12th grade requirement. As we know, with recent events that have happened in schools involving younger students and weapons, that it's just as important to be able to include all grade levels for consistency. So this is another piece that they are working on, the education part, before they release this to school districts. But this is something that we're already doing. So when there are threats made by students or against students, even with parents or staff even, we have done a really good job of our close partnership that we have with the Beverly Hills Police Department. So it's something that we're already doing, but apparently that was not happening widespread throughout the state. So that's captured in this bill as well. And then later in the agenda, as I mentioned, some school districts are doing other things with this bill and gun protection. And so Dr. Stern will share some information that she's become aware of. One of the nice things about people being in different places in different school districts is they're able to share what other school districts are doing to be really proactive in this area. So, and I think in light of what's happened in our country with firearms, I think it's a really timely thing that we're talking about, and I'm glad that Dr. Stern had asked for this to be on the agenda. So a couple things I just want to point out. We had a great weekend, a great Sunday, as a matter of fact, with Mayor Bossi's wellness series that she's put together. We were invited to work with the Teen Advisory Committee, but also with our Norman AIDS Center and also our Bulldog AIDS Center to be there to talk about youth mental health. The Mad Happy Foundation is a foundation that we're looking into as far as new partnerships. Their mission is really just to advance the conversations about mental health and having them. And the foundation is run by 2 BHHS alumni, and they were able to speak with Mayor Bossi on Sunday. It was a really great turnout. It was really the community coming together where people are acknowledging that we need as many resources as possible for youth mental health. It was just great to see our Norman Aid and our Bulldog Aid Center, our staff and students were there to represent our school district. And it was just a great collaboration with everybody that was able to attend. You've already heard a little bit about the math conference, so I won't spend any time on that, but I just want to say from a former teacher and former principal perspective, it's probably the best time spent when you can see staff working together to work on new initiatives and to have the conversation. We lead busy lives and people are going in many different directions, but to be able to see this collaboration and to be able to get that experience and bring it back to our school district is you're very successful if you're able to do that, because a lot of people would rather not go and open their mind to new ideas, but we have a very good team that wants to go out and bring back information and share with other teachers. Open House was a great success, and also a follow-up to Open House this morning, a virtual option for our parents. It was a great opportunity for people to get involved. It was my understanding we had over 100 people that were involved this morning, so we certainly appreciate everybody's work in open house. This is just a quick shout out for culinary Chef Lise, who at the open house last Wednesday, that he was there with his students, and they were sharing food samples with everybody, and that was kind of an exciting thing for him to be out and about. As you know, there is a master class that's going on right now with Chef Lise that I would have signed up for, but it's a direct conflict with our school board meeting, so I've asked for them to do another one so that we can come, and they're going to do that. So that's pretty exciting. And when we were on our tours, it was just so great that Chef Lise was really excited to be part of these new and innovative programs, and it just was so refreshing to hear and talk to him and his students about taking on one more thing all the time, whether it's Skills USA, whether it's evenings like this to help out. That's pretty exciting, and he's leading the charge in that way. So we have a professional development day coming up on February 17th. And so we've been working hard to plan for that day. Something I'll follow up with on my next report is the type of sessions that we're doing. And this was working with our team and Mr. Seaman, an opportunity for our staff to sign up to do their own presentations, their own sessions, like their own conference type sessions. We have over 35 people that agreed to be part of this presentation, so that when staff gets to select areas that they want to go to, whether it's on instruction and engagement or differentiation, communication, social emotional learning, the topics are just such a wide variety as if you were going to a conference, but they're all our own staff, and people volunteer to do that. And so staff and administrators, that's really exciting to be able to see that we have that many offerings for people to make a selection on February 17th. Just a quick shout out for our PBS that is continuing. Our buildings level teams are working so hard to provide these celebrations. I know that you've seen a lot of this information out on social media, but I just want to share with you just kind of a collage of different events and activities that are happening. One thing we've talked about before is that PBIS is often lost in the secondary, but it's moving along very strong here with very strong team members at both BVMS and at the high school. So shout out to them. Thank you. The kids love these celebrations. We've learned a lot about our progress when it comes to either construction or the type of work that we do in our schools, because we're surrounded by our homes. For example, on the right-hand side with some of our alarms, you'd be amazed that some of our homes that are a few blocks away happen to be just right in the right path, that you can hear every alarm, every bell, and you would be surprised that, because at first when we were starting to get complaints, we went out and we checked, and the way that the city, the way that the movement of the air, you'd be surprised like how loud it is, and you are several blocks away. So we've learned some lessons with some parents that don't understand, like when it comes to the requirements to testing alarms, that it's really annoying to a lot of people. So what we're doing is being able to provide this information in advance so that people, first of all, understand when it is, why we're doing it. We're trying to minimize what we can so that it's not going off all the time. And to just share that information ahead of time so that people can make plans if they don't want to be around for that experience. On the left-hand side with the BVMS neighbors, for example, this is, again, shout out to Rebecca. These are a lot of lessons learned because we want to be good neighbors. And so we have an opportunity now for people that are neighbors in BVMS to then sign up for communication, because typically it's been, if you are in the area system, you will then get the information from our schools. But if you do not have kids in our school, you would not be able to sign up. You wouldn't have a way to connect into our information. And so the BVMS administration team, Dr. Skan, and Sarah Perkins and Joe Little, Rich Waters. They are flooding the pamphlets out so that people can sign up for anything, information about what's happening around the school. And I really like this proactivity, and I want to thank you for that. Usually we are really reactive to parents and community members, and this is just a way where we've really elevated, I think, our communication in this area. We did a Rotary performance. You've known many times that I'm a Rotarian, along with Mrs. Wells, Mrs. Manicherry, and also Ms. Starkins. And so there was a great opportunity for our students to showcase again. You've heard the names already. Alex was pointing out Sungyoung Kim and Brian and Nicole. And this was just a real great spotlight for our Rotary to be able to have this performance. We wish that we could have been there. I know Mrs. Wells and Mrs. Manicherry were there. We had a cabinet chat at the high school, so we weren't able to attend, and I actually wasn't even aware that they were performing, but I'm glad that you were there to represent our school district, because we weren't able to do that, but I was excited to know that they had that opportunity. And I know that Alex talked about this, but I'm not supposed to have any favorites, but I do. This is like in my top 5, this show, and what Miss Finley does to be able to put on one of the most professional shows I've ever seen. And so I know that Alex was talking it up. I'm going to talk it up, because if you're not there, you're really missing out. This is extraordinary talent, extraordinary direction by Miss Finley. And so I'm super excited. I'm going to go tomorrow and hope to see many of you attend as well. What a great invitation that we have for the community for Mr. Brainwash. This is kind of where a world of art meets kind of amusement park culture. And through Sharona Nazarian, who is a city council member, she worked with us to be able to provide this opportunity for families free of charge on February 8th from 3 to 5. And this is a really exciting event that's really interactive, and the reviews are outstanding. Like they're just, people love going and feel like they really got something by going. So we're able to provide that opportunity through our community partnerships. So I want to make sure that everyone is aware of that, and you just have to show your Aries kind of ID so that they know that you are a BHUSD family. But we'd love to see people take advantage of that opportunity. And finally, and this is something that I haven't done as part of my report, is that Nushin Mishkati, who's here, who's a former school board member, reached out to Mrs. Manicherry and myself, and I'm super excited that she did, because we have an opportunity to have a discussion about a potential mural opportunity, and Nushin will speak a bit and then introduce the artist. But I'm super excited to be part of this collaborative process, because one of the first things that Nushin said was, we want to involve students as well. And so it's oftentimes where people want to come in and do something for us, but the student part is left out. And that was the first thing that Nushin said, is like, this is a great opportunity for students. So I was super excited. She had my attention. We had a great conversation, and this is just an opportunity to kind of share with you kind of the vision behind this work, and then to see kind of where we're going to go in the future and get some direction from the board. So I'll turn it over to Nushin Mishkati, who should feel right at home at that mic.
Thank you very much. It's always great to come back to our school and visit not only the campus, a lot of familiar faces, so thank you for that. I have on the Zoom Ali Reza Ardekani from Farhang. He's the executive director of Farhang Foundation. Through Farhang, because the focus on Farhang nonprofit organization is language art, Persian language art, and spreading the culture. We have done multiple times work with the city. We have adopted the banners that Farhang posts, and they have artists participating, and we have banners going through the city of Los Angeles. And for a while, I noticed Beverly Hills is not participating. Found out that we didn't have the right channel. So approaching the city council, they adopted, and for 3 years before COVID, we had the banners for Nowruz. And again, this year, they adopted one of the banners that Ali Reza will introduce to you. That will go through the city. Actually, they actually doubled the number of banners going up. So we will welcome Nowruz this year because of everything happening in the world, especially in Iran. We will not be celebrating, but we are going to welcome Nowruz and the spring to our community. Ali Reza, I think that his connection is there. He can talk about the artists that we have presented, some of the art that they have, and they are some of her art is in museums, different museums. I think it's a great opportunity, and as we talked, it's something that not only culturally but also the current events that are happening. I think it's opportunity for our community to get involved, and the best place is through education. And some of our students can actually educate their families a lot better than we can do through the media or virtual spaces. So Ali Reza will talk about the art and the artists, and we can continue on other opportunities. This is the wall that is going to be outside toward the Olympic that we picked, so we have to see the logistics of that. But we have many spaces on the campuses, whether it's our middle school or high school or elementary school. It's a great way to engage the students into art, connected with the culture of the community that they are sitting in the same classroom, sharing spaces. It would be so fitting to be able to learn the culture through art, and it sits well. And I'm sure we can find many ways through Farhang to bring those type of opportunities to our students. Farhang is already working with our city to bring after-school programs. We have after-school programs in our elementary school. Right now it's language. I'm hoping we can expand it to arts, such as dance, and maybe we can do other visual or performing arts. And as the students grow older, we can try to bring it to middle school. But right now, it's just through after school. So the city of Beverly Hills, Rec and Park is managing the program. If Ali Reza can hear us, he may be able to, I don't know if he has control over the presentation.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Take it on.
And since I still have control of the presentation, I can if you just say slide, I'll move it.
Thank you, everyone, for your invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I know we're short on time, so I'll try to make this presentation as quick as possible. If we can go to the first slide, that would be great. Or the second slide. So this project, the Iranian Mural Initiative, started in 2017 with an open call that we put out to artists from around the world to come up with a mural design inspired by Iranian art and culture. As part of that competition, 5 finalists were selected as the winners of the competition. And out of those 5 finalist designs, 3 of the designs have so far been installed on walls throughout Los Angeles. We had one on the Palm neighborhood. If you go to the next slide, we can see those. In the Palm neighborhood of Los Angeles. If we can go to the next slide, please.
I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, so hang on one second.
Oh, okay. This is the first one that we installed. This is in the Palm neighborhood, which was inspired by a very famous Sadi poem about humanity and how we're all the same. And then the second mural was the next slide, which was installed in 2018 in Santa Monica on Wilshire Boulevard. And this was, again, a design by artist Roshin Khairieh. who is also the same artist who designed the current mural that we're presenting. And then the final mural, which is the same design, was installed in Santa Monica on Olympic Boulevard in 2021, and that includes the Woman Life Freedom hashtag. If we go to the next slide, Rasheen Khelieh is an internationally recognized award-winning artist, author, animator based in Washington, D.C. She has received over 50 national and international awards, and her work is featured as part of major museum collections, including the Smithsonian American Art Museum. Her award-winning illustration books are also part of the collection of the Library of Congress. If we go to the next slide, we can see one of her pieces that is at the Smithsonian. This is a sculpture called Cherry Garden that was recently installed outside the Smithsonian, and that's Rasheen herself in the picture. And in the next slide, we can see her in front of our mural on Wilshire Boulevard, which she came throughout for here. And if we go to the next slide, we can see the current banners that Nushin just spoke about. These are this year's Nowruz banners that will go up on the streets of Beverly Hills starting this week, I think, welcoming Nowruz, and they incorporate the current mural design by Rasheen. The figure shows a woman's head, and her hair in Persian calligraphy spells out woman life, freedom, and the peace bird is sitting on her nose. If we can go to the next slide, please. And this is the design the other winning design that we're proposing to install on the wall here at Beverly Hills High. And it is also inspired by Qajar era designs and paintings. It features a woman with her hair flowing in the wind, and the words woman, life, freedom are shown both in English and in Persian language. So those were my brief presentation. I hope I didn't take too long.
Thank you. And just to let you know, this is basically in continuation with the movement that started in Iran, the revolution led by women, and it's continuing. This is the fight for freedom. And for us to bring the attention to the problems happening and the value of freedom, it's very important. So for us to be able to present this to our campuses, I mean, right now this is going to be outside the campus, but nevertheless, if we can bring a program like this to our students to be able to connect with the current events happening throughout the world and understand the value of freedom and understand what we have here is impacted by other countries. So if we are so sure of what we have is going to be forever, we're completely wrong, because if throughout the world freedom is modified and lost the value, it eventually will impact us. So we need to always keep our community aware of what we have should not be taken for granted, and what they fight through the world will eventually help us here where we live. So thank you for the opportunity. I hope the board will approve this, and we will be able to start a new program that will introduce cultural and bring the relationship closer between different cultures. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you, thank you, Nushin. Thank you, Ari. Did you have more comments, or do we?
No, it's just at this point to get some board input and some thoughts from the board, and we can answer any questions.
Just thank you so much, Dr. Breggy, for your report, and Ms. Meshkati and the Farhang Foundation. I think it's really amazing of you that you really want to include students. And off the top of my head, I can already think of the Persian Student Union. We have a women's empowerment club here at the high school, and not to mention our advanced art classes, who I think would be at the forefront of being interested in working with you on this. So thank you so much.
Hi, Nushin. Thank you so much for bringing this to the school district, and actually for all that you're doing to really give a voice to this fight for freedom. in the women's revolution. Really, women started revolution in Iran. I really appreciate it. I think that it's a fantastic program. I'd like to see more of the proposal and also flesh it out in terms of how it can be multidisciplinary, to your point, to bring it to the school in the different areas. And I would broaden it to it's not just for women or for Iranian women in arts and culture. It's really for everyone, and it's very poignant now and in the future. So I'd like to just continue this conversation. So thank you very much. And it's beautiful, by the way. Thank you.
Nushin, thank you so much for sharing this with us, and again for all that you do to bring attention to this. To me, it's truly a humanitarian issue, and also, to see this kind of beauty and to have the opportunity for our district to be a part of it is such an honor. I also would like to see a little bit more to know how you plan to incorporate the kids, and how we can make it multidisciplinary and also really bring more culture to them. Insofar as Farhang Foundation is concerned, I've been hearing the last couple weeks how excited the families are to have their support and have them providing the language classes in the afternoon. So thank you so much. My understanding is, it opens up at 9 o'clock, and by 9:03, all the spots are gone and the wait list is already happening. So all I would say, since I have this opportunity, is please bring us more of those opportunities if you can. I know it's hard to come by teachers, but our kids want it, our families of all backgrounds want it, and we would love more art and culture opportunities. Thank you.
Good evening, Nushin, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. I'm very excited about it. And I would just like to echo the words of my two colleagues here about the other cultural groups, etc., and bringing them in as much, and also the multidisciplinary effect that it can have for the kids in school. And I'm really looking forward to sharing and working with you guys on this, because I think it is something that is really needed, and I love having this being brought to us tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have driven past the one in Palms, and I just learned tonight what that was, but I have seen it for many years, and I think it's beautiful. I think that art has a way of speaking to kids in ways that sometimes black and white copy does not. And I think that children who are young and impressionable, when they see art, they may not understand it at first, but if they see it for a long time, I think when they grow up, they remember that, and it hit them in a certain way that the artist intended, and I think that that can be very useful. So thank you.
They all said it so eloquently, so I look forward to seeing this move forward in its myriad of forms. Thanks.
And so for next steps, we will certainly, let's meet and talk about those things that the board would like to see as far as the how students will be involved. We'll provide you with some more information, and then also the multidisciplinary piece on how that's connected.
So if we could get the approval for the outside wall to get going, to make sure that we get the logistics started, and we can work with Farhang in bringing more of the visual arts to be able to have more pieces done through the campus, through the art department or other department that you see it fit to bring. But yeah. I would appreciate if you could give the signal for moving ahead on this piece, so we can start getting the logistics going to get the wall and get the art started, so we can get it installed. This is the wall on Olympic and right outside the campus.
So it's not agendized as a voting item. We can discuss it as it's been brought up and give direction.
All right. So I would appreciate it if you could agendize it as soon as possible.
Right.
We can talk.
Yeah, I'd like to get direction so that we can get the proposal and more information on it, and then we can agendize it. I think that would be great.
And if board members have any other questions after the meeting, just email me, and I'll make sure that we get back to you. Typically we have started a cycle of not putting something on the agenda and then having the board vote, like without having some time to look at it and ask your questions. So
Right.
that's why it wasn't on there as an action item for tonight.
Right.
No, I concur with Mrs. Wells. I'd like to get more logistics and details on this.
Especially since it's in your it's in your superintendent report. We don't even have it agendized as an item.
Right.
So I think
It's
next
discussion,
time
yeah.
it would be better if we have it agendized as its own item, and then we can have the full proposal and information. I'm curious about just some of the logistics as well before we are committed to it and without looking at everything. I love the idea, and I would love to see this happen. I just would like to know what the commitment looks like for the school district in terms of maintenance and keeping that up, and just all of just logistics and the proposal itself.
So let me just ask
in
this.
theory, I love it.
So quickly, is there anybody that does not agree with giving direction to Dr. Breggy to engage in a conversation to bring back what Mrs. Wells is referring to? Okay.
I just want to make sure that we also include the wall itself, because I think we need information on that wall
Yes.
too.
That should be part of the
The
conversation.
wall where they're planning.
Right,
to put
because
it.
part of the wall is coming down.
So
So
that's why I wanted
Right.
to.
And
bring
if,
that.
when the
And-
construction's over there, how are we
and-
protecting that?
That's
I
what
mean,
I
I
was
just
thinking.
think
And
we need to think it through all the way. But in theory, I love it. But I just think it requires more. I'd just like to know that we're thinking it all the way through before we commit to it.
Okay, so if we can accumulate all the information that they need, and we can meet with Ali Reza from Farhang outside, because Farhang is picking up the cost of installation and anything associated with it. So we can talk about that and further look into what
Right.
it takes as far as the maintenance and
And I
if the
believe we
changes-
will need to loop in Will or
Exactly.
yeah.
That's
That
fine.
conversation.
It's a
Just-
wall we're doing major
Right.
construction
I
on,
mean,
so.
we rarely take things down partly either. So.
Thank you.
But it's
Yep.
so
Thank you.
beautiful, and I'm really excited about
As long as we get the
About
positive signal, we can work with Farhang and get things moving.
yep, and I will call you and set up that meeting right away.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to our final report, and this is a long-awaited one. I'd like to bring up the team for the construction update. Drum roll, please.
All right. 1 second while I prepare the slideshow here.
Raphael and his entourage.
Yes. So by the way, before I start here, I just wanted to mention I did get the date. May 17th was the day when the freight elevator started having those symptoms and went down. And that's what it records in our system. Just wanted to make sure you guys had the date. And so let me go ahead and put this here. Share the screen here 1 second. Difficult thing here is moving this out of the way. Okay, so good evening, Mr. Margot, Dr. Breggy, board members, community. We're really excited today in regards to this bond program update, this construction update, to present. I think there's been a lot of great work that's been done, and we're very proud of our team. I'm very happy to be here with Founder Solari, with Will Karat, and just our Founder Solari team, and everything that we've been able to do throughout these past couple months. We're really excited to give an update to you. So I'll turn it over and go from there. So thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Mr. Superintendent, community members. Since last presentation and update that we had, as Mr. Guzman mentioned, that a lot of things happened. So I'll be glad to go over some of the highlights, what happened, like progress since our last presentation. As we know, we had some design challenges because the amount of unforeseen work and the underground condition that we had at B3 before. So we added the staff to our design team, full-time person to the field to basically have the role of design assist and streamline the issues that needs to be resolved. We are looking at cost-saving measures for former Veneco site facilities. What can be done differently or what can not to be done at all to basically save some cost as we are moving forward. We had 2 RFPQs out for renewing the architectural services pool for the district and special and material testing. The due date was on Friday. We received, if I remember correctly, 14 responses to the architectural services and 6 for the material testing. And now we are going to just go through the review and select a new pool for the consultant services for the district. We have started the needs assessment for the existing facilities of the district, and MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, would be the next phase of that, which is gonna start as of this week. And also a key element for having the El Rodeo school project up and running on time is having all the utilities up and running timely. We are working constantly and very closely with the city and the utility companies to make sure we have all of those up and running in a timely fashion.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here. So what I'd like to do before we get into the El Rodeo update is talk about the site in general and what all the buildings represent. That was one of the questions that come up, and actually it was the question I had when I first came here. And this information would have been helpful, so I'm hoping it's helpful for you too. At El Rodeo, we have several buildings there on the campus. And in this slideshow, which we'll make available on our website, and also it was available on our website. So on the next slide, you'll see that I'll have all these buildings listed and by letter, and then you can see what is included in those buildings. But for now, I'll go back to the site plan here. So if you go around and the buildings, and there's building A, and in that building, you'll find an auditorium, music classrooms, offices. Building B is also classrooms, kindergarten classrooms, and SPED classrooms. And then building C, I'm looking at Sarah to make sure I'm not saying anything wrong. This is the general idea of what's in each building. Building C, there's a cafeteria, classrooms, media center, occupational therapy, speech, and more offices. Building D's art shop, classrooms, locker rooms, music classrooms, and SPED classrooms. And then finally, building E is administration offices, classrooms, computer labs, learning centers, the library, and STEM. And you can also see on this plan the overall site and what it's going to look like when we're all said and done. And then, like I mentioned, on our website, you'll see that list of what I just read off there on the next page, so you can reference it later if you'd like. Now I'm going to bring up Saeed up here to give us an update on what's happening there exactly.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to give you some brief description about the progress. For building A, the metal lath is pretty much installed for the lower case, and we're just doing some updates. And we should have the plaster applied by next week. For building B, most of the ceiling T-bars installed, and we also painted most of the walls. For building C, most of the windows are installed. Most of the T-bars are installed on the first floor. They're wrapping up the painting on second floor. For building D, pretty much everything's installed except flooring and some of the whiteboards. And all the plumbing fixtures are also installed. For building E, same thing, is pretty much ready. The only thing left is flooring tiles. For utilities, we're done with Edison. They installed the electrical meter. For the gas company, we have application in progress for the gas meter. We have a good progress on that. And then also for the city, for the some utility lines like water lines, we have some progress, and we should be able to wrap up the permit for that in a couple of months. We don't have any update on the budget. Currently, the project is under budget. We're good on that. For the schedule, we should be good for completion of June 30th of 2024. So here you see some photos on the right corner. On the left, you see some concrete seat walls that are already poured. We had some delay because of the rain and the holidays, but they should be good. We're on the schedule for that. On the left top, on the right top corner, you see building E, the corridor. As I mentioned, it's pretty much ready. The only thing left is the flooring. And we had some issues with the temperature that was required for that, and some power issues. That's why it's not installed yet. But we're pretty much on the schedule for that one too. And on the bottom left, you also see a classroom in building E. As you can see, everything is installed. The only thing left is the flooring. And on the right corner at the bottom, you see a restroom in building D. As you can see, everything's also installed here too.
Thank you, Saeed. And Will, you can just go over the map.
Yeah, so similar to what we just did at El Rodeo, I just wanted to provide an overall site plan of the high school. Once again, I would have loved to have had this map when I first started here. It would have helped me learning to know what's going on and where these buildings are. So, as most of you are probably familiar with this site, as you go around, we have the swim gym in the bottom left, and then the future building C is right next to it there on the right. And in that building C, there's going to be athletics, obviously, in classrooms and offices. So that's what will be in building C. Then as we go around to building B1, there you'll find admin offices, classrooms, the College to Career Center, the Tech Center, and the Media Center as well. B2, we have ASBs in there, administration offices, classrooms, conference rooms, the health office, Norman Aid, and the multipurpose room. Then next to that, where we currently have our construction in B3, B4, there'll be an auditorium in B3, offices in B3 as well, and in B4 you'll find the choral classrooms, dance, music, and theater classrooms as well. Behind B1, B2 is building A. In there, there's several types of classrooms. I'm not going to read them all off now, but there's also a facility storage area, the KBEV studios, the language classrooms, offices, and a robotics lab, and a SPED library, and also Theater 40. And then obviously in this building we're in right now, STC, there's this lecture hall, the Trinity Lecture Hall, the command center, math classrooms, offices, science labs, and SPED classrooms. And of course, I can't forget the swim gym, which I think we all know. A pool, a basketball court, amongst other athletic offices and rooms. So once again, that list that I was reading off can be found on the next slide, which will be on our website. And if you want to follow up with what else is in these buildings, you can give me a call or send me an email, and I can clarify any of these rooms for you. And now I'm going to pass it on to Elliot, who will give us an update on the construction at B3, B4.
Good evening. So over at the B3, B4 project, we've got ongoing collaboration with the contractor and design team. Right now, we're still in the structural and foundation phase, so it's really important we have our design team very involved in this process just to make sure that we are capturing everything we need to be able to move it forward. We are continuing to work with the contractor to review their additional scope change request because of a lot of these unforeseen conditions. When you open up a wall, there's something there. We want to make sure not only are we being fair with the contractor, but we're respecting the money that the district has for this project. We want to make sure that we get everything done in a timely fashion, and we want to make sure we stay within the budget that we have. We're still continuing the value engineering process. We want to make sure that if there are things within the buildings that we can reduce scope or maybe change to a comparable product that may be a little bit less expensive, we can look at that way, get you guys the exact same thing that you would have had, but we could save you a little bit of money at the same time. So we're continuing to work through that. And then within the buildings themselves, we're still continuing with structural steel and concrete. We've got a couple of concrete pours coming up here in February. We're getting probably 2 to 3 deliveries a month of structural steel. As it's fabricated and brought in, we're getting that installed. And then there are some areas of the buildings where we can be starting to install metal stud framing, and we've got windows going in. We've got HVAC systems, plumbing, things like that going in. So where we can in the rooms, we are making as much progress as we can. And then finally, what we're doing is we are working with the end user staff, so teachers, principals, things like that, to make sure that they have input on the space. They're going to be the ones using it at the end when we're all done. We want to make sure that there's things that they have there that we can change. If there's changes we need to do now, that we can implement those so that they have the best experience possible when they're in their rooms. Here you can see that we got a few progress photos in the upper left. This is where there's going to be a walkway, an ADA walkway coming down below the music building. That is going to take us from the buildings down to the street level. Actually, we have made a bunch of progress now. We've got the walls going up, and they are working towards a pour date towards the end of this month. In the upper right, you're going to see the choral room. So you can see we've got metal studs going up. So we're making a lot of progress in there. This is one area where the structural work is complete, and so we can now proceed through with getting the rooms made and laid out. In the lower left, this is in building B4. This is what is going to be called the green room. We're able to get some key milestones and CCDs completed, which allowed us to get the structural steel in for the floor. And they are also going to be, working on the elevator pit, which is going to be in this building or in this room as well. And finally, in the lower right corner, this is going to be, they're finishing up the wood framing in the dance room. Moving on to building C. So currently we have DSA approved plans for this project. We also have a construction estimate that we have. And we also, if the board decides to proceed, and this is the next priority item, we have a timeline put together for you guys where we can show you what it's going to take to procure the contract and when we can get ready for construction and how long we anticipate it going for.
Thanks, Elliot. So as Elliot mentioned, we already have the DSA approval on the existing plans for building C. We completed a full estimate and this project can go to procurement. In order to do that, there is one piece of puzzle that still is moving, and that's the DTSC approval for the mitigation plan for this corner of the site. And we are working for the district environmental consultants to make that happen. That yellow bar chart that you see is basically the timeline that we are anticipating to get that approval, if again it's a public entity, but we are working toward that target date to have the approval by the end of the year. At the same time, we can start working with the district legal consultant to put together a project-specific pre-qualification to pre-qualify contractors to compete for this project. RFPQ also needs some help to just be modified and up-to-dated for this particular project. With the help of the district and the district legal consultant, we will do that. We can go through the selection of the process of the potential contractor, have some pre-con services with them to do a constructability review before getting to the construction, and if some value engineering if needed. A key factor for the success of this project would be like a good phasing and site logistic plan, because it's going to be again another construction in the middle of the campus. We want to make sure that we are going to minimize the impact on the students and also streamline the construction. So we are going to work during pre-construction phase with the potential contractor to come up with the best phasing plan. And after that, obviously the construction can start and basically be done in like about 2 years. The estimated budget for the project, the total budget for the project is around 76, and the construction budget is also on the screen. As you can see, that's the estimated construction value for the project. Breach, Elliot?
So I know there have been some questions and concerns about what's going to happen with the bridge that's currently connecting Building A to Building B to B3. We have had the design team look at this, and currently we see no reason for this bridge to be demolished at this point. It can stay in place. It's perfectly safe. It will need a little bit of modernization for ADA requirements, and we are working with the current design team to come up with those requirements so that we can keep the bridge in place and make full use of it. Currently, we are still within budget. We haven't changed budget for both the B3, B4, and the Amendment 8 South Site project. Moving on to the Veneco site, we are continuing to try to figure out cost-saving measures for this area. Amin and I have semi-regular conversations of, hey, what about this, what about that type of things, of what we can do to try to reduce the scope of work in this area and save the district some money. We have worked with your environmental and oil well consultants, and they have talked to their respective state entities, DTSC and CalGEM. So far, those two entities have said they are okay with leaving in place some of the underground structures that used to be the Veneco site. They see no hazardous issues with that. We can just bury it in place and leave it there. That's going to save us a good chunk of money without having to remove it. We are currently working with the soils engineer right now to make sure that the soil is suitable to do that, and we're hoping to get that wrapped up within the next couple of weeks. And then we are continuing to talk to the design team and to try to figure out what we can do as additional measures to value engineer this part of the project. Currently, we are still within the budget. We've basically put the contractor that was there doing the remediation on hold. So we are not incurring any additional expenses at this point, and we are hoping to be able to save some money that would have been left as part of their contract. This is kind of a close-up shot. That red circle there is where the high school currently has 3 legacy wells. We do need to re-abandon one of the legacy wells. We will be able to get started on that relatively soon. We're in the process of working with the consultants to come up with scope, and then we have to go through a state review process with that as well. We are hoping to only work with one of the wells. We may end up having to do 3 of the wells. Amin will touch on that a little bit more.
So as you know, and Elliot mentioned, we have 3 legacy wells at the middle of the field right now, and apparently they were abandoned in early 70s, but they were not properly abandoned. More specifically, El Rodeo 106 is one of them that needs attention. But there is a chance that issues with abandonment instead of one of them is with all 3 of them, and we cannot determine that till they start working on the one and go below grade. So worst case scenario and best case scenario, you can see the cost for 1 or 3. So we need to make a decision, like we want to just start full force and do all 3, because there is a chance that one of them go bad again in the future if you want to build the field. So it may be a better idea to do all 3 at the same time in the beginning, and we may have no other option. Like we start with the 1, and the 2 other also shows issues, and we are gonna end up to do all 3. So for budgeting purposes, we consider the worst case scenario, and in the future slides, when we talk about the budget for future projects, we consider the cost to do all 3 at the same time. It's not a really long term as far as the duration of the project. If we start moving on that right now, we are hoping to be done before September, October with the process. But that's one of I don't want to call it infrastructure, but it's one of the infra layers of the projects for future projects that we have to do. There is no other way around it. I don't think you want to leave those wells the way in the life cycle of them the way that they are right now. I don't think it's proper to leave them the way it is, and we have to move forward with the re-abandonment process. That's the way that we estimated the cost, and that's the standard industry standard for all the hard and soft costs for each one of the projects. And I'm going to ask Kimberly to come and continue with our budgets.
Hi there, I'm Kimberly Emerson. I'm the bond budget coordinator. This is the budget that we've put together for, as Amin said, the worst case scenario for the legacy oil wells re-abandonment. If we had to do all 3 of them, We checked in with WZI. WZI is the design and engineering firm you guys have worked with in the past regarding the oil wells. They gave us a figure of $12 million for base construction cost. And they gave us the figure for their design, what their design fee would be for this. And all told, the rest of the percentages are based on industry standard percentages for inspection and soils and materials testing, with the exception of the insurance costs that will have to be carried for this. WZI gave us an estimate for those as well. Working in everything, we come out with a total project budget of $15,684,000 for the project. The next slide is the project schedule slide. The current contract amounts that we have for all of the contractors that we have under contract at the moment, those are in gray. The projects that we're looking at in the future, those are the ones in brown. Those are the construction values only. That's not the total project amount. And we have the scheduled information in here as well. And as you can see, the ones that we have going right now are on schedule.
And one of our final things that we're working on is some work that we're doing at Beverly Vista. That includes some street work that is carried over from a previous project that needed city approval. So we had to redo our design, and we're currently doing that right now. Once the city gives us the okay, we'll be working on the city street, which is basically an ADA path of travel from the parking lot to the school. We're also working on the Bulldog Aid Wellness Center, which I've been providing updates almost weekly on that. Currently, we are working on a DSA pre-check or over-the-counter review in about 4 to 5 weeks, which is great. That would all allow us to, with an aggressive schedule, get this completed over the summer. I wanted to make one more announcement. I knew Sarah was going to break out her red pen as I was talking about at Rodeo. So we do have some changes to the buildings that I was reading off and some of the usage of those buildings. So I'll update that slide, and I'll post the modified version on our website.
Our next slide is the total of the budgets of all of the projects that are ongoing at the moment. Those are pretty much unchanged from the last time that we gave you guys a report. We're coming up with a total of, you can see at the bottom, $95 million in Measure BH funds that remain available for future projects. And on the next slide, we have the list of all of the future projects that the district has expressed interest in. Building C and the retaining walls, those are the same amounts we put on the last status update. The reabandonment of the legacy oil wells, as we just discussed, $15,684,000. The reestablishment of the Grand Lawn out in front of the high school, that's running at $10.7 million. And we now have a realistic estimate for the South Site Athletic Fields project. That's coming in at $40,680,000. There will still need to be some earthwork, backfill, and soil dirt handling. We don't have a realistic estimate for you on that yet, but we're working on it. So in total, that comes to $164 million in projects that we know right now the district is interested in doing. We have $95 million in Measure BH funds that are available to us, which puts us at a $69 million deficit. We do have the state seismic mitigation reimbursement that we're still working on, and that's looking really good. It's looking like we are going to get those funds. And that brings us down to $53 million overdraft.
All right. So, and one thing to note about this is just the kind of, with everything that you do, there's a certain order that you want to do things because logistically it just makes more sense. So for instance, you don't want to do your south site without having reabandoned those wells, because as you saw in the picture before, that one of those wells that needs to be reabandoned is right in the middle of your of your field, and the last thing you want is to tear apart your brand new field, right? And so there's certain, ways that you want to go about this, and I like the way that this was presented, because, and I thank Amin for that, because it kind of delineates what we would recommend as far as an order. So, for instance, building C, retaining walls, and the reabandonment of those legacy oil wells should probably be all done together. Concurrently and together, because that way it gets us in line and ready to go for the Grand Lawn, but it's specifically more so for the Southside Athletic Fields project. So those, the way that we go about this will be the decision of the board. That's something we'll need from impact from decisions from the board in regards to how we want to proceed with this. But as you can see here very clearly, in order to really get all of this done, we're looking at about having to find around $53 million worth of funding to be able to complete everything that we'd like to complete besides our projects. So this is including, building C, this is including the Southside Athletic Fields. We're looking at that, which is really important for us to know. Now, just to clarify, we are going to receive the state seismic mitigation funds. Those have been approved. We just haven't gotten the actual cash yet. So I don't like putting things as complete until I actually see the money in the bank. It's just something, the way I like to do things. And but regarding this, it's going to be very important that we maintain realistic expectations, and that we're just aggressive enough, but not too aggressive, just to make sure that we get things done correctly. There's a good timeline here that was presented for building C, for instance. We want to get some of those things going, but we want to make sure we have our legal team review all of the documents to make sure that we're in the procurement method that we're selecting, that it's all done correctly. So that's going to be important. So all of this is important here, but again, realistically speaking, we're looking at least a $53 million deficit that we have if we want to do all these things, excluding the earthwork and backfill and dirt handling. Now, where are we going to get these funds, and what can we do to help us? Well, one of the things, again, is we need to plan strategically. I know our team is constantly looking at value engineering. I do want to make a distinction between value engineering and actually redesign, right? Those are two very different things. And we are doing a lot of value engineering. Redesigning is very difficult at this stage of a lot of these, especially when it's gone through DSA or if it's sitting currently in DSA. So we want to look at those. But there is some escalation factors. So the longer we wait to make certain decisions, the more it's going to eventually cost. We also have to look at the cost for the oil wells, the allocation of the seismic mitigation funds. Hopefully those funds come in soon. I'm not really too worried about that too much in regards to cash flow, but it should be coming in soon. One of the ways that we could start looking at this $53 million, the amount that we're, short, one thing we can do is looking at, of course, value engineering of our projects that we have remaining, the future ones, not redesign, unless the board would like that, but that's going to cost money to redesign something. But again, one of the other ways that we could look at this is obtaining state modernization funds. So in 2025, one of our modernization fund consultants is estimating that Beverly Hills High School is going to be eligible to file for modernization funding in the amount of $17.2 million in 2025. So that helps, if you look at this here, it could potentially help with doing the Grand Lawn, depending on how it all works out. But we're looking at about 17 million that's eligible at the high school. Now, El Rodeo and Horace Mann together is about $9 million that they'll be eligible for. But the way that, just real quick, crash course on state, modernization funds, you can request refunding, per se, for projects that you've completed with bond funds. So if you completed them and you didn't receive money from the state for that, you can put in for a refund. And so essentially, theoretically, we could put in for a refund for example, B3, B4, and get some of those monies back. That's 17.2. We'd get some of those funds back. And then from there, we could request perhaps for even some of the funds that we've used at El Rodeo and the Horace Mann. And so basically what happens is they refund us, and then we have to use it for bond purposes. I want to make that very clear. These are all bond funds that can only be used for bond purposes. So they would refund that, and hopefully that will help us. Now, I'd like for us to only really look at Beverly Hills High School, because if the law changes and says, no, you have to use El Rodeo's refund in El Rodeo, which is not the case now. But if for some reason it changes to that, then I don't want to count on something that I don't know. Now, the other thing about this is that these funds are, funded through, every year from the governor selects how much they're going to, buy in regards to bonds or sell in regards to bonds. And so it really depends on what happens. So typically when we put in for modernization and eligibility, it's been taking about 2 to 3 years to actually see the money. So, theoretically, what we have here is we can start some of this work within the current structure of what we have, but we have to be very cautious and we have to monitor something that's the most difficult thing to do in school finance, is cash flow management. You have to monitor your cash flow. That's going to be so vitally important for our project success. Like, when is the cash coming in? These numbers are all great and they look great, but we have to know what's in the bank. Cash management is going to be very important. So in the scenario I gave you, if we have 17 million that we can apply for in 2025, and we don't see those funds until 2 years from there, we could say, let's move forward because we're going to get 17 million. It really is not going to come in until 2 or 3 years after. So we have to come up with this cash in between. So there's options that we could go through as a district, and I'm sure you're all familiar with, certificates of participation, or COPs as they're also known. We could go for some of those, but that has cost payments that you have to do in that year, and so we have to start budgeting for that, and we have to make sure that's part of our budget, and that our cash flow is affected, and that affects your reserve levels temporarily. Now, the way COPs work is you would take out a loan theoretically for that amount. When you receive your modernization refund, per se, you could then take that money and pay off that COPS loan that you had. And so that's kind of the way you would do that. But that's part of it. But that's only 17 million of the 53. So there's other things that we have to do here to be able to obtain, more funding, look at how we're going to phase these future projects, that we do it correctly, that we, follow everything we need to follow, and that we don't get blindsided by, now we have to dig back and do something different. So that's going to be something that's a challenge, and I'm really, I think it's really important that we just brainstorm about what we do in the future, and that our cash is at the front end of everyone's mind. Maybe not this year, we're looking good in cash, but a couple years from now, that's going to be very important that the board consistently has some updates on actual cash and not only just budget. Some other activities that I'm very thankful for and our founders of our team mentioned it earlier, they're working on our needs assessment. And so for those of you that in the public that might not know about what a needs assessment is, it's basically just looking at what our facilities look like, where we have needs, where we have to do some immediate repairing, and what could be part of our bond projects in the future, and it's going to consider all these things, and that's part of master planning. Eventually we'll have a facilities master plan. So right now we're working on that. We did have an RFP for architects, which also Founder Solari was able to run for us. We do have a good pool of candidates, and now we have to just select from that pool. And so we're working on that for architect selection, and we're also working on that for testing as well. So just other activities that are happening as well as program management. We're looking at revision of our policies and procedures and other available state-funded programs. And so with that, unless you have anything else to add, okay, with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lot to digest. Colleagues, in order to respect each other and time, try to limit your comments and questions to some things that are very important that we would like to discuss tonight. We can follow up with the team at future meetings or send questions into Dr. Breggy. I was just about to go to Alex. Okay. Mrs. Wells.
Well, thank you for the presentation. It's really great to see all of you and to see the progress that you're making. And it's so comprehensive and extensive, all of our projects. So thank you for doing this. I have a few questions that, first of all, talking about El Rodeo. When I looked at the plans, is the parking included in this? Because I don't see it in any of our discussions. So where is the parking, and is that included with what will be completed in that time frame?
Yes, it is included. First of all, I'll answer that question. And I will take you back to that site plan and show you. If I can get there far enough, I should have just exited out. All right.
It's on the second.
Yeah. All right. I guess you can't. Can you see my mouse there? maybe not. Anyway, so the parking, parking will be located actually behind Building C, and as you come in, you can, as if you were to come in off of Wilshire, you would have some parking spaces along the back side there, and then that looks like basketball courts that are shown there right now are not actually going to be there. As you come around the corner, there'll be more parking spaces there, and as you make your way towards Whittier, there'll be additional parking on both the left and the right side.
Okay, that's terrific. Because I know at one point in the very original plans, there was an elevated parking structure with a playground on top, and I know that went away fairly early, probably from a budgeting standpoint. But I was curious if we have enough parking, if we foresee that we're going to have an issue with parking in the future. I haven't heard anything about that, but I would like to just get confirmation whether we feel comfortable with the amount of parking that we're going to have there. And you don't have to answer that today if you don't have the answer.
Well, I'm sure we have an answer, and the architect did do a study, but we can actually ask him to do another study and advise us on if he thinks we're providing adequate parking. We did actually add a few additional spots across from the pre-K area where there was supposed to be a playground, but we thought it'd be better not to have the playground there, and we moved it to the field. And now I think there's about 10 or so more spaces there because of that move.
That's terrific. I also had heard that you were working with the AYSO group in terms of looking at the field and improving that to make it even more useful for not just the school district, but also with our JPA and with AYSO. And I'm curious if that's going to move forward, or if that looks like that will move forward with these timelines.
Well, we do hope it moves forward. We still have to have another meeting about planning and the effects to our budget and also maybe our schedule. So we're in the planning and talking stage with AYSO, but basically, yeah, the field that was originally proposed wouldn't be able to accommodate most of the AYSO soccer games. If we make some modifications to this current field, make it larger, almost accommodate all the games for basically under 11-year-olds to play on that field.
And I just want to add too, it's just a really unique experience because it's not finished. And so this is, again, a true collaboration opportunity. When AYSO met with us, and it's kind of a win-win situation that improves the getting an official site for soccer, but also for then improving for the school site as well. So I know that everyone's waiting on a date for me for that next meeting. So I will work on that. But it's really kind of exciting because it's not finished, that we still have this opportunity to do this and bring them in from the beginning instead of always having to make accommodations after it's finished. This is so unique that we have this. And we have a great partnership with them.
Right. I mean, it's really wonderful to hear and see you talking about collaborating with Sarah and even during the meeting correcting that. It's just really nice to know that you are speaking to each other. Yeah. So that's very comforting as well. I'm going to ask these questions. I don't want to necessarily be redesigning or adding more time or money to this project because if anything, we want to find money. So, but I do, because we've had conversations with parents coming up and speaking in the past, and I think it's just as relevant now, and we should keep it in mind, talking about asphalt and are there alternatives for asphalt and shade structures for the kids when they're playing, and keeping that in mind. So as I look at the plan for outside, are you having those conversations? Are we addressing that? Are we looking at alternatives in terms of the kids playing on hot asphalt, both from a temperature and enjoyment level for the kids, but also from an environmental standpoint as well? And then that also dovetails with asking about solar panels or other things that we can do from a conservation standpoint in your looking at these plans now.
Yeah, so I'll just make a few comments and then maybe I can ask Saeed to chime in. There are shade structures planned already for Elverdale. They're not shown on here, but there is a shade structure in this area on the north side of the soccer field and also on the west side of the soccer field as well. There will be a shade structure. As far as the asphalt, Saeed, do you know if there's a special surface on there? So it is a special play surface on that. It's not just black asphalt.
And we are evaluating the whole solar as well. There's just different options for solar. Like perhaps the two more popular ones are like a power purchasing agreement where like it's very minimal to no cost in the sense of like upfront. And they come in and they maintain all of this. We end up paying through like, electricity because we pay for it. But, or there's an option of buying solar. But, I think for us that could be kind of a solution as well. But we're in the, beginning stages of exploring the whole solar, just not only in Elverdale, but really across, all the sites.
Right. When I was in Palmdale last week for LACSTA, all their parking had the solar parking shade structures over the parking. So I'm thinking when you do the parking here, if that's an opportunity. And I don't know if you get state rebates for that or what the options are, but it just seems like now's the time to talk about it. And you have uncovered parking as well, and Dr. Brady brought up at our last meeting needing electric vehicle charging stations as well. So I just wanted to throw those things out there for actually all the projects that we're looking at. In terms of timing for one other thing specifically to the high school, I remember asking with TCDS in the past, I knew we had the south side plans, but what about the lawn and all of the landscaping that's on that side? And it was always said that was part of B3 and B4's budget, and that was included in B3, B4. So I'm surprised to see that we have a budget line item for the lawn, that it's not included in the B3, B4 GMAX.
I thought the lawn by the music room and the switchback was included. I don't remember the entire lawn being included because the entire lawn was staging until way down the line. So I always think that was left out.
Well,
I think it was in the it was in the overall budget, but then no, you're right. They never lined. Yeah, they never lined it out, but it was included in the overall site. But they did never line it out like this. That is true.
Okay. And then one last question is M&O. Where is that going to be on this plan that's at this point in time?
Well, I can't speak to totally what has been talked about before, and I'm not quite sure. But as you know, right now most of our M&O offices are up here on what looks like is a tennis court and a soccer field, a half soccer field. So I don't know what the plans are. I don't know if Raphael has anything to add.
Yeah, no, we're still exploring all the different options. Along with just different other movements that we have to do as well with different properties of the district. So that's all part of that evaluative process.
Right.
But we are looking for a permanent home for our.
From a sequencing standpoint at the high school, I'm curious why we can't do where you just pointed out where M&O is and where those fields are, why those couldn't be finished in advance so that at least the kids could start using that. Yeah. But I'm certain that you're evaluating all of that. But it would be really nice if we could start to use some of that, since the site work, as far as I saw, is that's at the very end after Building C. Yeah. So it just seems like if there was a way to incorporate that in earlier, it'd be great. But keeping in mind that we are trying to find every dollar and every day.
Yes. Thank you. We'll continue to look at that.
But that's it. I'll just stop there so everyone can ask their questions. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wells. Mrs. Manishari.
Hi, thank you all so much for your comprehensive report. I really appreciate it. Going back to El Rodeo for a second, please.
You want to see the site plan map?
If you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay.
So when is the site work going to begin? And by that I mean the exterior groundwork. When do you anticipate starting that stuff?
The work is in progress right now. Mainly the infrastructure underneath of the ground is done, and there are concrete benches in that round area that's already poured and is in place. So the work is moving forward as we are speaking.
Okay.
And some of the so that earlier we talked a little bit about the soccer, and just it may impact some of the work that we're already doing, and so we're taking that into account in collaboration. And yeah.
Understood. Thank you. And then Will mentioned some basketball courts not being there, which are on the map. So is that the set of courts that's labeled future basketball courts, or the set that's behind BC and Building C and Building A?
It's these courts right here. Those
Okay.
basketball courts have been moved to this field.
Okay.
That's here.
Sarah's parking space.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. And then you mentioned less play structures. So how many play structures are there going to be, and where are they located? And is there a differentiation between, like, for the younger or lower grades as opposed to the upper grades? Hi, Saeed.
Hi.
Thank you.
So there are two equipment playground areas. You can see they're in blue. One on the right and one in the center. The one on the right was relocated to the adjacent to the soccer field. They deleted the bleachers, and we're gonna relocate the equipment to that area, so we have more parking. But nothing's been deleted.
Okay,
just relocated.
So no de-scoping.
Yes.
From the original plans.
No, just the bleachers. If you can see, like the benches.
Yes.
They're gonna be deleted, and then the playground from the right corner is gonna be relocated to that area.
Okay, so then holistically, would you say that the only descoping from the original set of plans is the parking structure is now a parking lot, and it's going to be more of where the backside is?
Yes.
That's the only.
And more on the right side.
Okay.
When there used to be the playground.
Okay.
That's
Thank
going to be
you.
located to the
Thank
soccer
you.
field. Sure.
And then moving to the high school.
I just want to clarify,
Sure.
when you say original set of plans, this is the set of plans that they set their price based on it. So I don't think that parking structure ever was part of the construction set that they started working based on that. So the GMP was set based on this set of DSA approved plans that more or less looks like what you're seeing in the field.
Okay.
That parking structure was conceptual only. It
Got
was
it.
never, yeah.
Thank you. For the high school, to Mary's point, is there any way for the tennis courts to be completed so that when Building C should be started, all those athletic users can have a alternative, or are you aware of what the plan is at that time?
I have to look into that further because, again, there are retaining walls that also needs to be built that holds basically that upper area. I am not sure if the tennis court is not even part of the design for the south. So those are not even designed at this point. Those are just, this is a conceptual master plan for the whole site. What is already designed is like the fields that we have on the south side, and technically the buildings that you see moving toward Moreno. But that upper area is just conceptually you're showing, what we are showing is a master plan, is not even designed yet. We can look into that further and came back with like more accurate report, but at this time those tennis courts is not even part of any of the designs that we have in our hand.
Okay, and then do you intend or are you able to minimize the footprint of the construction staging on the front lawn so that you can provide the kids, you're very welcome, thank you, with some of their school back, please, soon?
I am not sure if we can do it in the front. There are small areas in the back that we can open. Elliot, can you just point out exactly where we are talking about?
You know how to zoom in, right?
Yeah. Oops. Uh-oh. Okay, Raphael.
Where are we? Okay. So there you go. Just like pull.
Okay. So where we're thinking that we can open up some of this is up in this upper area here below B2. They're currently working on this set of ramps and walkways right now, and then they're going to continue up through here. So we can in the future get this work completed and open up this area here. It's going to be tough to open up much more of that given how much staging area we do need for the buildings. We are going to have some large crews coming in soon, so we're going to need the access and the space for them to do what they need to do. But there is going to be the ability soon to be able to open up some of this upper area below building B2.
Okay, can you tell me what soon means to you?
I can't at this point. It's because of the weather. It's all dependent upon, we're doing outside work, we're doing site work. So if the weather cooperates, I could say 6-ish months. If the weather doesn't cooperate, it could be a lot longer than that. So it's just, it all depends upon how the weather cooperates, because we're working in the dirt. If the dirt's too wet, we can't pour concrete. The workers can't go out there and do what they need to do. We just need to have cooperation from Mother Nature at this point.
Is that something that you can prioritize?
It's going now. So there is a sequence that we have to work through. We can't just hop and skip around for the site work. We have to work our way up to that point. But yes, that is something that has been expressed to us that we are going to try to make an effort to get done. Unfortunately, we just are stuck in the rainy season right now. And so we've lost days currently because of the rain. And so we have to make up those days before we move forward.
Thank you. Sorry, I keep pushing on it.
That's okay.
We have kids here that have been
absolutely
in construction for years now. And when we talk about giving them the front lawn back, you should see the look on their face. So it's something that's really, to me and to others, super important. When we talk about building C, what is that going to mean for the construction staging? And if you give us part of the lawn back, the upper lawn, let's say in the 6 months that you mentioned, are you going to take it back, or that's going to be ours?
So we can leave this area up here open. There is no reason why that cannot stay open at that point once it's done. We have construction down in this whole area right here. Some of that is going to be needed for building C, just purely for access and things like that.
Yeah.
We're going to have to work with the school, you guys, and the contractor to come up with a logistics plan as to how they're going to want to stage and access this site. Unfortunately, we don't have much space from the front or from the swim gym side because those are existing buildings, and we got Moreno right there. So this is really the most realistic way to get into doing work for building C.
Yes.
So that potentially that is about a 2-year project. So we could be looking at this lower area being shut down for another foreseeable future.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Can you explain to us, if you know, what's the difference between what the Conheim currently provides us and what Building C would provide us?
I'm not sure what's in Conheim, Will, if you could
spot
me on that one.
Thank you, Will.
It's going to be relatively similar, but not exactly. I just don't have, I guess, a good answer for you right now. We can provide that.
We'll get you something specific.
I just want to give you the false information.
And as Mrs. Wells said, you don't have to answer everything now, but I think it would be really helpful to know what do we have at the Conheim, and then what would Building C offer us, given the continued and seemingly never-ending construction our children have experienced.
We'll make sure to put that some comparatives for you.
Judy?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask.
I was just going to answer her question.
Okay.
Conheim has basketball courts, classrooms, trainer, locker rooms, some offices.
I know what Conheim has,
Right.
and I'm there every weekend. What I would like to know is how does it compare to the proposed Building C, please? Thank you.
In addition, there's the Building C will have a level of parking, and then I think I saw a plan for it somewhere, but it would be great to go through. I'd love to see it in detail.
Let us put that together, and we'll get it to you.
Thank you.
I just want to go back for 1 second, because before we get too far, when we talked about the tennis courts, because I'm a little concerned about, as we're talking about this staging area, which is, I believe, where the tennis courts are existing now, and not having designs for the future tennis courts. Because I believe when we did the South Site, when we approved the South Site amendment with DLR, they were doing the drawings for all of the South Site work. So, and my understanding is that included that upper area. So I just want to call attention to that we need a plan for that area. If we don't have one now, it should be in the works if it's not with DLR already. And Noah, if you believe differently, I'd like to hear.
I agree. And I think I remember that being part of the plan and already being beyond conceptual stage.
Right. So Just want to highlight that so that we don't let that fall through the cracks.
No,
Thank you.
that's a great point, and I think connecting. Mr. Ellis had a lot to do with that work as well, working with the architects. So just to get you guys connected, so that everyone's got like the latest version of what was happening.
Right.
Right.
I would love to have a meeting where we just. I asked for this previously, a study session to just look at, really just kind of what you're doing, really like what with Sarah at El Rodeo. I'd like to see at the high school, like what are we doing with this space? Where is it going? Where will the tennis courts be? Just seeing like at this point now where we are in this process, and how do we plan to use this? I just would like to understand how we're utilizing this space and all the different spaces and making sure that we're covering everything.
Thank you. And one more
Along
question.
the same lines as Building
Yes,
C.
definitely. And then for the pool, is the pool part of the current budget? I'm sorry, I didn't have a
Yes,
printout
that's
to look
part
at.
of Building
part of
C.
Building
That's
C.
part of Building C.
Yes.
Okay.
It's because it's part of the same set of design. We call
Yes.
it part of Building C.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Marcus?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate and love the presentation, and I think it's very, very important. I've heard so many questions, and I know that there's so many more that I have, but I feel that a lot of them can be answered when we meet, and I can get to talk to you about them. But there's a couple things that I do want to mention that I don't see that is of a concern to me. I thought that the tennis courts, by the way, were going to be in the back by the new basketball courts. There was going to be tennis courts back there. I don't remember if that was the case, but I remembered something about tennis courts being in another spot, but that's just my immediate recollection. Going back to El Rodeo, I see that you've made provision for locker rooms, and I question, we were having a discussion about those at when we did our tour at Horace Mann and Hawthorne, and those are now not wasted space. That's space that can now be used. So
yes.
I don't understand why we include locker rooms, but that there will be space for other things there.
Yeah. So we are going to update that slide. That locker rooms wasn't there, so we'll make sure to update that. Sorry about that.
And then the other thing on the high school, you have the auditorium in B3, but you just say auditorium, and I wondered what happened to the Ruben Cordova auditorium. We had 2 auditoriums in that area, and I only see 1 now, and I was wondering what happened to the second auditorium.
Do you want
So we have in B3 is the auditorium. I'm not sure what it was called previously.
It was called the Kenneth Peters.
Okay, and then in B4 we have Salters Theater.
The Salter, that's what it is. The
Yeah.
Salter
So in
Theater.
B4 we do have Salters Theater, and then we also have a smaller separate space for the choir and for the band room.
Okay, because it's not listed in here, so I just wondered what happened to the second theater. That was,
Yeah, it is in B4.
Okay, and there was one question I did want to ask, and it just has to do with budgeting, and if someone could explain to me, I'm a numbers person. I think you've all heard that before. So it says that the contingency, the original estimated budget is like 70 million. And then you talk about the current budget as a contingency is 588. And then that means that the differential is about $69 million.
Which slide?
Can we explain the difference between?
I think it's you're looking at El Rodeo.
I'm looking at the other out of all of them, but I just need that just to explain what that means.
Can you explain like why that's? I think that's.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
At the bottom of the El Rodeo one, it says that there's a contingency. The total is 70,129,844, and then the current budget, it says 588,500, and then it says that we're gaining. It says there's a 69 million budget differential. There's a difference between the two. What causes that difference?
I believe I'm having trouble seeing it on my screen here, but I believe in the initial budget that they put together, they had a large amount in contingency because they didn't have the whole construction amount figured out at that point. So really that was just the realistic assessment of, yes, they had a budget.
The original budget is when they started the program.
they had a number and they had a larger contingency. As they move forward, they moved the contingency to the budget because they had more information, the design was more complete. So that's basically gradually changed from that number A to number B.
So if you look at, like, for example, where you're looking at that 69 million difference, you'll see there's a negative 58 million. The way it looks there, it shows all, which is a positive. That's the hard costs increase. So basically, it's just reallocating the contingency.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then there's one more question that I have that really is very uppermost. Is you look at the high school now, and you're looking at, you know, the what are we doing about security around the perimeter of the school going forward, where I don't see anything in there as far as security for our high school. I mean, El Rodeo's got the fence, and it's got single entrance and so on. I don't see anything like that for the high school. I see it. Is it going to be an open field?
No, actually, as part of the Grand Lawn project, the idea is that there will be some fencing or wrought iron fencing going all along Moreno, and with gates at, you know, various locations. I think we plan for 6 or 7 gates from the swim gym up to gate 1 up here on Moreno.
So that's already, that's in plan for the...
It's planned, and it's one of the budgeted items that we showed before for the Grand Lawn.
Okay. Well, I think all the other questions I can sort of hang on to because they're just little simple things but those were the 4 major ones I had. And I thank you again for this wonderful presentation.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you so much for the update. In the interest of time, I'm not going to ask some of my questions. Many were answered. I was concerned about the shade. I'm also interested in the present quality of life for our students, which I'm thinking about. You know, these are dates, a lot of these that are in the future, but I really would love to see, you know, part of the green lawn available to them, and also continued look at shade projects such as at BVMS and Hawthorne, you know, whether or not that's in your scope or not. But thank you.
Sure, we're actively looking at these, what type of shade structure we could use and all those things, and we're going to make sure to just go back and see what we could do for the quality of life items that you mentioned. I know a lot of it is just difficult because of you know, what Elliot mentioned earlier, but we're going to take another look and see as a team if we could brainstorm some stuff and open some of, you know, some other areas potentially. Again, though, it's going to be difficult, but we're going to do what we can to see what could potentially open.
When I went to visit El Rodeo, there was a problem with the foundation or the fill, and there was like over on the west side of the auditorium or something. You were talking about a problem. Has that been resolved?
Was it behind Building A in the court?
It was behind Building A, right? And it was there was.
The formwork, like a wood.
It was, wood. There was
it was one of the photos. It wasn't an issue. They were gonna pour concrete there. It was the seat wall, and it's actually in one of the photos.
You wanna go back?
Oh yeah. On the right corner, actually on the left corner, you can see the concrete. It's already poured.
Oh, okay.
And we didn't have more progress because of the rain and holidays.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would be more complete. But there was no issue.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Alex, do you have anything? Thank you. Nushin, you had a public comment regarding this before I wrap it up. So go ahead and we'll make your comment, and then I'll finish up.
I actually had one other comment as well.
Then I will bounce back to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I am so excited to see what's happening at both high school and El Rodeo. My kids went through the El Rodeo school and the high school. It's great to see that it's finally coming together. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that I noticed that we're giving up space, the playground space. I know that the campus is changed now. It's not the K-8 anymore that it used to be, but giving up the playground space to parking space, although it's talk about changing, you know, the location of the court to another location. But just keep in mind that in the past we had discussion with $9,900 or whatever is called the project across the street, as far as providing parking spaces to our teachers, and which is really right across the street. And if you look at the location of the parking that you're talking about, it's literally right across the street. And also, as Ms. Wells mentioned about the EV stations, and also providing electrical vehicle opportunities. Hopefully what we can do is, whether we use solar system or not, encouraging our staff and teachers to be able to drive EV, not only the cost of the fossil fuel, it's just the environmental issues. It's just what we can do educationally to encourage people riding EV vehicles versus, the fossil fuel-based vehicles. Hopefully, the campus can base just EV vehicle stations, so that way we're not exposing more. I know it's not much, but exposing more of fossil fuel to our students on campus, and also encouraging people and being incentive for our employees to drive electrical vehicle versus just a normal, and whatever what the district can do as far as subsidizing, so that they can take advantage of whatever it is that they can take advantage to drive electrical vehicle. And going back to high school campus, as far as the front lawn and staging, these students have lost so much. Whatever can be done to use Heath Avenue or anything in the behind the campus to provide the lawn that the students used to graduate on back to the community, and showing the good efforts that you are responding to community, because I know that this has come up at every election, and a lot of promises have been made at every election, and let's just make some of those promises come true. Thank you.
Thank you, Nushin. Mrs. Wells?
Yes, I just wanted to circle back about the budget. So I'm just really happy to see that based on what you've laid out, it appears we're at striking range to be able to finish this. When I spoke with Raphael earlier, I mean, this is really great news. And I know that this is conservative in some areas, and the areas that you have some unknowns, but I know we have other modernization funds that we could potentially get that Raphael hasn't included on this, that's possible down the road. And I really appreciate you value engineering everywhere that you can, and as well, to the extent that we can do the COPs and negotiate our existing contracts in any way that's possible, so that we can manage our cash flow better, since cash flow seems to be another component for us. I feel really confident that we are going to be able to finish this, and that's the best news here today. So thank you very much. It's really great, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing to save us money and to do this efficiently, and I appreciate the reporting, and look forward to doing the town halls as well. I liked how when we did it the last time, we had this out in advance so people could ask their questions, and I think that the community liked it as well. So thank you for also being willing to do that, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Wells. A couple of last quick questions. It seems that El Rodeo, at least the classrooms, are moving at a very quick pace. I know the auditorium is behind, I assume, the schedule of the classrooms. When do you anticipate the classrooms being completed?
So it actually varies by building.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, as you can see, building E is pretty much complete.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing left is flooring, which is going to be done in 2 weeks. It's ready to move in, basically. The exterior is painted as we speak, so building E is pretty much complete at this point, like 95%. Building D, I would say end of February. Building C, we still have some issues with window delivery, so I'm assuming end of April or mid-May.
Okay.
And
again, I need to clarify, like move-in ready, we still have all the IT fire alarm stuff.
I understand
it's
that.
Just the hard construction will be done. There is a lot of
furniture
other component of the building that's not in place yet. So
it seems to me from after going through this exercise with B1, B2, that most of El Rodeo will be completed long before the projected completion date of in June of 24.
Again,
and I can't speak for the
hard
auditorium.
the hard construction of the project, yes, but there are still a lot of like soft portion of the building that's
Okay.
not in place, like IT components,
Okay.
finished electricals, fire alarms, those kind of stuff. There still has a longer way to go.
Okay, thank you. The retaining walls. Do the retaining walls, the oil wells, do the oil wells need to be abandoned prior to the retaining wall project? Could the retaining walls be done without touching the oil wells? I know the site work can't be, but can the retaining walls be done?
Yes, but I don't see any necessity to do the retaining walls as a separate project compared to building C. There is no like pressure prioritizing the retaining wall projects right now. I think it's going to be most competitive that if we are going through a competition to combine building C and retaining walls as one project.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that if we don't have to do the wells,
Mhm.
we have to do the wells before we do the site work, but not before the retaining wall and building C.
That's correct.
So we easily can fit within the budget the retaining wall and building C.
With the money that
If we
have
take
now,
out
yes.
if we take out the wells, the site work, and the lawn, we have enough money to finish without going for COP, without seeking any more funds. We can actually do it. What I'm wondering is that a consideration of the team of moving forward with building C/retaining walls?
That's our goal, to move forward with those two as one project.
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible, yes.
Okay. So very soon we'll be getting bids for those?
Again, we show the timeline, so we
Yes.
have to update first of all, the RFPQ language
Right.
and documents. Our goal is to go through a project-specific pre-qualification, and I think that's before
was the
the
legacy, right?
Yeah.
It was the one with the DTSC line. All
Yeah,
the way.
and one missing component that we cannot start construction without that is the mitigation plan for the corner of the site that's building C, and we are hoping to get that approval like by end of this year.
And we just want to make sure too, because of the procurement selection that we're going to do, that we also run it through our legal team and make sure that it's all in line correct.
Okay,
It's gonna be
but we
important.
don't have to, for that yellow line there, we don't have to wait for the completion of that yellow line to go through the procurement process.
No, that's how we are showing it, yeah.
We're going to move forward with at least that process.
Yes, that's
Okay.
our goal is
Good.
as soon as, again, we start working
I know
with
you think
your-
I could read that from here. Right?
I'm sorry.
Let me, but we will seek direction from the board on this. We just want to make sure that we go through the whole the correct legal review process to
Okay.
make sure there's nothing that will put any delays on the project.
Again, it's going to be a two-step process for the procurement. We are going to do a project-specific pre-qualification. After that, go through an RFPQ process and basically select the contract.
I'm encouraged by the way the budget is laid out for the remaining parts of the project, because I would like to see, and I've been pushing for this, and you guys know that, and Dr. Breggy knows this, to get building C going as soon as possible. So it looks like we could do that now, and I just want to make sure we stay on top of it and get that done. My last question is about the bridge, the administration bridge between B2 and Building A. I would say close to a decade ago, maybe not that much, but a long time ago, we were told that the bridge had to come down. This is many teams, many other people ago, but not many architects ago, and not many engineers ago. So I'd like to know where it changed, where now the bridge may not have to come down.
Well, I don't know the history, but what we heard from DLR, there is no structural concern with the bridge as far as, like, it's pretty safe. There is no seismic issues with that, and it can stay in place. The only issue that it has some it's not ADA compliance per current code, and that can be fixed. We can further look into that, but I specifically asked more than once from our architectural team, and I never heard that there is any structural concern with the bridge.
Okay. That's news to me, just having sat in this seat for as long as I have. It was supposedly structurally unfit and needed to come down, either be worked on or come down.
I'll re-verify again,
Okay.
but as far as I know and the information that conveyed to us from our design team, I don't think there is any issue, but I can further look into that again.
No, it's not that I absolutely believe you. I'm shocked, that's all, because we were always told one way here. So thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Raphael, I know you already have your hands full and you're understaffed, but when do you plan to submit everything that can be submitted for modernization funds from the state? Is that something on the horizon for you, please?
Okay, so we do have some funds that we could submit for right now for the high school, but they're very small. It's like around, I mean, I say small in the context of what we have to do, like around $300,000. That's not small for me, but it's in the context of the project. That's not much. But we're in the process of submitting for those to get in line for those. Now the $17.2 million that I spoke about earlier, we won't be able to apply for that until July 6th of 2025. So if you all write it on your calendar and just send me an email, remind me. July 6th, 2025 is when we become eligible. And so that's when we can submit. And then as of that, and so that date, we'll make sure we hit send and get everything submitted. And then from there, we play the waiting game. And, there's back and forth that we have to go through. But, about 2 or 3 years from then, we're looking at 2028. I'd go more for 3 years just based on how the economy is performing recently. And then, that's when we would actually see the money. But that's what I was talking about earlier. Cash flow will be an issue for us in the future. And we have to be, if we have to be very, very careful with our projects and how we spend our cash, as in a couple of years from now.
And how about the Horseman monies?
So the Horseman El Rodeo funds, same. El Rodeo becomes eligible also, both El Rodeo and Horseman on July 6th. But again, that's about $9 million. But it could potentially be repurposed to the high school, and it's not you're not taking anything away. It's just that you originally funded it out of a bond, that work. So all that the state's doing is refunding the bond, and so that's why you're able to do that now. They might change that. So I don't want us to count on that money because I don't know if that's going to change. But it hasn't changed for many, 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 many years. So I don't think it will, but I don't want to count on something that's speculative.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, team, for the presentation. I look forward to the next check-in in a quarter or so. I will let you return to your seats. And
Thank you.
I'm going to call up Mr. Horvath for the next item under Personnel Services.
Thank you, President Margot. I apologize for an oversight on my part. Before the board takes a motion, I would ask that we eliminate 2 of the positions on here as we were attempting to clean this up. On Class 1, the Director of Student Services and Special Projects, we no longer have that position. And also under Class 3, the Coordinator of Student Support Services. So with those revisions, if we could make the motion, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to make a motion to approve the revised certificated management salary schedule minus the Director of Student Services Special Projects and the Coordinator of Student Support Services.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any questions, colleagues? Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Apologize for that.
Thank you, Mr. Horvath.
Thank you for the clarification. Back to planning and facilities. Item A. Make a motion, please.
I'll make a motion for approval of amendment number 2 to the agreement with Layton Consulting for a geotechnical investigation and report for the Beverly Hills High School B3, B4 project.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Wells and Mrs. Marcus. Who'd like to answer some questions on this one? I had a question. My colleagues, do you have any questions before
I'd like to hear Raphael first, just if he could just talk about it so we could have the background.
Sure. So for this one, it's really it's an amendment for a total of $114,000, and it's essentially for an increase to cover the geotechnical observation and the soils testing that needs to take place. What happened was the foundation was not where the plan had originally specified it would be, which, it shouldn't happen, but that's what happened. And so because of that, they had to dig deeper and then now they have to test. And there were also some other activities that happened throughout the scope of the project, where we had to look at the quality of the air and just some dust, and so all of that took some of that budget. But really, it's because they had to dig deeper to be able to test those, and it also included, if you were to look at the actual attachment, and let me see if I can get there 1 second. But it also included, and I know I didn't say it in the description, but the geotechnical exploration of the abandoned Veneco oil tank pit.
Right.
So it also includes some of that in there. I know it's not in the description, but if you look at the attachment, it's part of your fees and terms.
Yeah, I saw it on the proposal.
Yes.
So it seems like a lot of that's really efficient, and that it's covering both of those areas. So, and moving you forward at the Veneco site.
And it's a T&M budget, so it's not like.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. I mean, it's T&M, so meaning they could go up to that, but we're going to make sure to monitor and make sure that they, hopefully, that they only use it for what we need.
Right. Thank you.
Who's requiring the testing at the Veneco site? Is that DTSC?
It's through the DS. Some of it is DSA required.
Okay.
Did you want to elaborate on the actual requirement?
Basically, we need to do that because we are building a retaining wall.
Right.
On top of that, that needs to be done to make sure that.
Oh, okay. It's not related to the tanks. It's not related to any of that. The remaining Veneco material that was there that we're going to bury. It's soil. It's still soil related. Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And that answered my question.
Okay.
These are all DSA required.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Any other questions, colleagues? No. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item B.
I'll make a motion for approval of additional furniture, fixtures, and equipment, FF&E, from Tangram LLC for Beverly Hills High School buildings B1 and B2 by utilizing the San Bernardino bid number 1920-1273 furniture systems and standalone project piggyback contract.
All right. I'll second that. Questions, colleagues? Mrs. Marcus?
Anybody else have a question?
No.
Where exactly are these, is this equipment going to be going?
I believe it's Norman Aid.
Yes, this is for items that Norman Aid didn't get. It wasn't included, and so that's why we have the amendment, and that's why it's a smaller amount. It's for let me make sure I give you the right one. It's $11,597, and it's for all the FF&E for Norman Aid.
Where was Norman Aid before? Is this because they weren't in the original plan for B1 and then they moved into B1 after the fact? Is that why they got...
Well, because they were in the village before.
Right.
So.
Okay.
And so now, we're actually getting what we need for FF&E.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Takes us to professional and official business. Discussion to add back the reading of the mission and vision statement, the community pledge, and community spotlight on board agendas. So discussion. So I will ask Alex, do you have anything to discuss on this? Okay. Mrs. Wells?
Yes. Well, I really feel like I said everything last meeting. I would really like for the mission and vision statement and the community pledge to be read to add that back to the board agenda, as well as the community spotlight. As I said before, the mission and the vision statement are really it's really the direction of the board, and part of our strategic plan this year in revising our mission and vision statement to educational excellence and really reading our mission and vision. Prior, nobody would even be able to tell you what it was. And I think it's just so important that we have set this direction, and it really starts with us now to be communicating that and to really using this as our focus. And I believe that, we can have these things and we can put them on a shelf, or we can actually use them and really communicate that out to the community. And I think it's really important, especially now, given these times, that we continue with the community pledge. We launched it at the beginning of this year to really set the tone with the strategic plan, because we realized that without what is in the community pledge and the tone that we're talking about, we really cannot achieve educational excellence. And that's just been, we have asked our PTA, and we read it before a football game, and this has been a really important piece of our year this year, and part of our strategy to bring the community together to achieve our goals. And I think that the tone and how we work with each other as a community, and it starts with the board by modeling that. I can't stress more how important I feel it is for us to start our meetings with that, especially when these meetings can get heated, as we've seen in the past. And I think it has an effect, and we've heard very positive feedback from the community. And along the same lines is the community spotlight. This is part of us, our mission to really increase community engagement, and to have our community as part of our strategic plan, to feel that they're included and that they belong, and to have them engage with our mission of educational excellence. And it really, we see in studies that when the parents and the community are involved and they're engaged, that's how we can improve our academic performance and supporting our students. And I feel that, again, I've only heard, and I know that all of us have only heard positive feedback about the community spotlight and the positive impact that it has had on our community. And we're halfway through this first year of our strategic plan, and I don't think now is the time to abandon it. I think I certainly would be open to reevaluating come this June and July, when we have our planning sessions, to see if this is something we'd want to revise or continue with. But at this point, we're midstream, and I feel that it's working, and I don't see a reason to take it out. So I'd like to give direction to put it back on our agenda.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments before I respond?
Yes, thank you so much. I was sitting out there before I was sitting up here, and I actually, at the beginning, kind of wondered why are we hearing the mission and the vision statement and the community pledge and the community spotlight, and it did take me a couple meetings to get used to them all, and then I really grew to appreciate them a lot, and I still think that they've got a role to play, and I think these three components are the compass for who we are as a board and as a community. The mission and vision statement, it's something that all of you adopted without me, but I wholeheartedly, would like to adopt it and continue it. And it's so short, and it's such a nice, bring us all to center together, that I don't see why not. I think it's good, as is the community pledge. And these are both things that we can reiterate to the children, especially in this day and age with the social media, especially as our kids are navigating these tough waters. It's good to remind them, this is what we're about. Insofar as the community spotlight is concerned, when I was not a board member and a parent, I would see other parents that had been spotlighted, and they were familiar to me, and I stopped them because I'm Judy, and I don't hesitate. So I stopped them. Hey, you're the mom from South America. It was great to hear about you. Hey, you're the immigrant, family. It was great to hear your story. So these are nice threads, among us. To the extent that my colleagues feel like maybe the community pledge is, the community spotlight is time consuming. I mean, maybe we can compromise and just do it once a month, and try to limit it to something like 10 minutes. I'm okay with some kind of limitations, but I think the ethos behind it is really important to continue what you all started.
I concur completely with my colleagues to my right. I would like to just make a couple comments that I always felt that when we did the community spotlight, it did something for us as a community, and the energy that was in it always made me feel like we were part of the community at that time. So I really feel that, although I was a little critical of it, that at times it got too lengthy, I think we can control that It doesn't necessarily have to be every month. I mean, more every time we meet, at least once a month. But I do feel that it keeps us a part of the community, what's going on either locally, nationally, or internationally about what might be happening in the world, and that we recognize it and bring it out for our community. So I would love to see it returned, but I think that it needs to be returned with some parameters that we will maybe have some control over. And as I said, I think that my colleagues said very well what I had felt. Thank you.
When you look at the genesis of these things, I think that it is really with good faith. In other words, guideposts to put us all on the right track in terms of why we do what we do, why we put kids first, and that we as adults want to uphold a lot of these values that really revolve around not only educational excellence, but character excellence. And those things are always valued. I also want to say that I do feel that people and community members really do well with rituals. And rituals often has a bad connotation, but generally people can organize their thoughts. And it is a sense of comfort when there is something that is done consistently. And just as we say the Pledge of Allegiance, and many could argue, oh, we already know this, we've said this so many times. I think these things punctuate our meetings and set the tone in a way that is a ritual and is something that a lot of people look forward to. In terms of the community spotlight, I also look forward to that because, not only because I'm a psychologist, but I think that it is a wonderful opportunity to hear from community members and to see different perspectives. So while, we talk about the business of the public, it makes it very human and it puts a face on these matters when we have different members from our community. I could consider maybe once a month for the community spotlight, just in the interest of time, but if it were to stay and be at every single meeting, I find it very interesting. So I would wish that these things are reintroduced.
May I make a comment as well? Sure. I agree with everything that has been said already, but just from my perspective as a student, I think that the community spotlight especially has increased student involvement with the board meetings. I think, before, a lot of students don't know a lot about the board meetings, and I think I'm very unique in the fact that I had an interest in it before, and I, had attended meetings, and a lot of people just didn't understand what it was. But because of this community spotlight, students have been, coming in and a part of the community spotlight from the Women Life Freedom, where people from the city came and Ashley spoke. And I think just ASB and the students in general have had an increased interest in understanding the board more and understanding what's going on in the district. So I think a huge part of that is because of the community spotlight. But I understand also with just the time, sometimes they can go to 2 hours, just shortening them or having them once a month. So.
Okay, I've heard my board loud and clear, and I'll say a couple of things. I'm willing to acquiesce on the community spotlight if we can keep it to one a month and we can keep it down to about 10 minutes. I'm okay with that. I also want to make sure it's educational related, and not just it's educational because we're doing something. I'd like to see how it ties into what the students are doing, because to me that's the most important part of what we do. You obviously want to read the mission and vision statement and community pledge, and you're all welcome to do that. If that's what you would like to do, I can't stop you. You can do it during communication from board members anyway. So there's nothing for me to really stop you from reading that, but if you want it agendized, I'll agendize this. But that being said, I'd like to make this comment. Never in my history on the board, and even before that, has a board told a board president how they should run his meeting or her meeting. And I hope that never happens to anybody else up here when you're president. Because to me, it's a personal insult of saying, we don't like the way you're doing the meetings, we want to do the meetings our way. Everybody has their turn to lead this board and to set the agendas. And I never did that to a board president, ever. Ever. So this is a first, and it's something that should not be precedented. I also know that there is no data to correlate the reading of the mission, vision, and community pledge to student success. I'll give you the community spotlight because Alex backed it up and said it does have an effect on the students. That's why I'm okay acquiescing to that, because it obviously does mean something to students. So excellent, and kudos on that. But as far as reading those other statements, I always thought that it's great to have them. It's great to have them on the agenda. I support that. But to take time out in the meeting, I don't think that relates to student success at all. And that's what I'm more concerned about, is student success. So unless there was data supporting it, I would be more excited about this. But I hear my colleagues. I will make the changes in the next meeting. Whoever wants to present a community spotlight for that month, please run it to Michael and I, and we can set it in the agenda. Okay? We will do that. So hopefully that puts that issue to rest.
I'd just like to respond to that. One thing, Noah. I feel that these things are not, because I don't want this to feel as though it's an insult to you. I really see this as...
It absolutely does feel that way, but...
Well, let me
go
explain. I feel that these items are, you know what, when we talk about setting the agenda and the president setting the agenda, I think it's a really important job about making certain that when things should get on and whether we, the board has the information that needs to come with those items and really controlling that agenda. I feel that these items are not, those are procedural. I feel that the items that we are talking about are more substantive. These are substantive items that we as a board have agreed to and that we have been supporting as a mission. I don't see this as, managing the agenda. So I'm sorry that you take that personally, because I see this as more substantive and that this is a board decision. So I apologize that
we didn't make that decision when you put that stuff on, Mary. It was never a board decision, and we respected it. It was your decision as president, and we all respected it.
But we all agreed that we liked it and wanted to keep it on. And if someone had come and said, I don't want to have
we
that
were
on,
never asked, do you like it and do you want to keep it on?
Well, we talked about the community pledge, and we all participated in the community pledge. And I had added the mission and vision prior to that, but there was no objection to it. So
because it was your agenda to set, and we respected it.
Well,
that's how I viewed it.
Well, it was not intended to be a personal affront to you, so I apologize if you take it that way. Because
it already is, but thank you for the apology.
My goal is really about the substantive nature of doing this and really having this be a part of what we as a board have identified as our goals with the strategic plan and really communicating that. And even more so once we changed the mission and vision statement. And to Mandy's point, there's a lot of reasons for why I feel that that's important, and I think that the rest of the board agrees. So I apologize that, again, that's personal for you, but it wasn't intended to be personal at all.
And it wasn't intended to be personal for me to remove it. It was intended for me to run quicker, efficient meetings. That's all I was concerned about. I would like to know how many students and staff members out there can recite the mission and vision or have signed the community pledge. That would be an interesting thing to find out. Well, but that's a discussion for another day. Mary, thank you for what you said. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Discussion on SB 906. Do you want to start that, or you want to let Mandy? Dr. Stern? Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Now to look at a completely different subject. Rebecca, if you could show the image that I... So SB 906, which many of you heard Dr. Breggy speak about, is in fact something that was written into law that says that we as a local education agency are obligated to let parents know about gun safety and ammunition storage. So, excuse the dramatics, but I do have a picture up here that I thought is very illuminating. It was up for a second, but...
You had a picture.
Yeah, well, you'll see the picture, yeah. It's going to go on. Anyway, I think that there is no one in the community who does not feel strongly that we need to continue to keep safety as a priority for our students. Because without safety, at the most basic level, it's really hard to go on to other things we care about, like educational excellence. Children and staff and teachers must feel safe. So when we talk about the scourge of gun violence, and up here we have a picture, this is from Uvalde, which I find very telling. Basically, I think that we are not going to eliminate guns any more than we are going to be able to eliminate vehicles or tobacco. And I actually think we're destined to live in a sea of guns, unfortunately. But just as kids will always sneak cigarettes,
People will inevitably drive drunk. If we can't get rid of something completely, we can at least regulate who gets access to it. Now, children and adolescents pose a unique threat when it comes to firearms in the home. As we know, since the pandemic, there have been unbelievable mental health challenges with children and adolescents, and over 80% of child gun suicides involved a gun belonging to a parent or relative. I know these are grim statistics, but it's just the reality. I also want to share with you that more than 1/3 of adolescents aged 13 to 17 say they could gain access in less than 5 minutes to a loaded firearm kept in the home, and half could gain access in 60 minutes or less. A lot of you in here know and love children, and one thing I know about kids is that you can tell them, if you see a gun in a household, if you're playing hide and seek and you see a gun, don't touch it. You know what they're going to do? They're going to touch it. And that's the reality of what we're working with. So with that in mind, and given the fact that we have a law that we actually have been following, I'm happy to say, but that mandates that we do our best to make sure our community understands the unique perils of young people around guns. And also, it's a very interesting thing to know that I think it was just 10 days ago we had the Monterey Park mass shooting, and then since that, in January alone, there have been over 44 mass shootings, and that has not even considering the little boy in Virginia who took the gun to school and shot his poor teacher. So I have little doubt that for us as a board to resolve to continue to protect our children from preventable gun violence is something we all care about. I sort of jumped the gun, sorry for the pun, but I did create something of a resolution. I understand that it, of course, needs to go through our administration and be looked at legally, but I do feel that there are certain realities and recitals that I have put in this resolution that acknowledge some of the things I just said. Another one is that 75% of children know where their parents' guns are kept, and as I said, most children will handle a gun if they find one, even if they have been taught not to. So with that in mind, I don't know how you'd like to proceed with this, but I do have this resolution that LAUSD, well, they have one. I know Glendale has one. This one that is going around is one that I have created that reflects some of these stark realities, such as the fact that children will, in fact, handle a gun if they find one. I also would like to say that there are not a lot of people who do listen to our meetings. I know that's true. If you do happen to know people who have guns, you might want to remind them of this. They may not be aware. They may be good parents, but they are not aware that their kids are very smart and can get into those safes, know the passcode, and will handle a gun if they see it. So feel free to just open the conversation to your neighbors if you feel it's necessary. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, any remarks, questions?
Well, I'd like to thank you for bringing this to the board. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate that you actually took the time to draft a resolution for the board. I know that this is the SB 906 is passed, and that we will be implementing that protocol starting with the next school year. But I do think it's important for us to call attention to how important we feel it is that we are following those guidelines, and to bring awareness for safety for our children around guns. So thank you for doing this. And I'm assuming that this will go through Dr. Breggy with your staff, and that this will come back to us. But I am very much in support of signing some sort of resolution which would emphasize the importance that we feel around giving this information to our families.
And also giving the information to public and private agencies. So, we have a great relationship with the BHPD, but we want to continue those conversations so that they are aware of what we know and we are aware of what they know. So that also reflects that at the end of this.
That's great, because we know, as we've always said and have continued to say, we feel that is a number one priority for us. So I think memorializing it in a resolution is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. So well said. And I appreciate you taking the ownership on behalf of all of us, to really be responsible for this SB and so we can comply with it. I know a lot of families, given what's happened in the last couple of years, that have become gun owners. Yes, and actually that's the comment that I wanted to make the most. I admire that in your approach, you're stating facts and you're not pointing fingers, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you, and I would look forward to more of this. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Amanda, for presenting this evening. It's I know how passionate you are about that and how deeply you feel about it, and I think it is extremely important, and I want to thank you for bringing this. I think that we will get a chance to look this over and make our own suggestions. I mean, absolutely. I agree with you that there has to be something. We have to keep our community aware that safety is number one, and this is just a piece of the safety that we can address in trying to keep our kids safe. Even, maybe one child going to another child's house, keeping that child safe, and reminding parents about the danger of not keeping these guns secured and out of the reach of kids. So I appreciate and I congratulate you on the work that you did on this, and I look forward to looking this over and giving you some of my suggestions and bringing it back to you and maybe passing this next week as a resolution. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stern. I look forward to just coming back and getting passed, it seems, unanimously. We had guns in my house growing up, and I know how responsible my father was about them, and did everything correctly. And when I was old enough, he took me to a range, so I understood guns and how to shoot one. And it's people really need to understand them. It's a very misunderstood, glamorized weapon that shouldn't be what it is. So thank you for this, Dr. Breggy.
So I believe I hear the board loud and clear that I can share this out with you, get some input on how you would like to add or revise. And now that I have the direction from the board, and then I think that we could probably get this back on the agenda for the 14th.
And I'm open to, of course, any of the legalese or anything that needs to be done to make it.
Great. Yeah. No, I think we can get it finished before the next board meeting.
Thank you, colleagues. And finally, we have a discussion on the district cell phone policy. I asked for this to be added in light of things that have been going on throughout our district with the use of cell phones. We don't have a district-wide cell phone policy. That's correct, Dr. Breggy. We have school sites have practices. Once again, we write policy, they do practice. So I brought this up for us to reconsider, especially in light of a recent lawsuit filed in the city of Seattle. The school district is suing social media platforms, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, because of the damage these platforms are doing to teenagers and young children. We are seeing that firsthand in our own district. So I wanted to ask the question is, do we feel as a board this is something we'd like to address with policy, possibly, and make it district-wide, not to manage the discipline of what our school sites do, but to give them actually backup to make it policy and not just leave it to a site decision. So I'll start down at the end if, Alex, you'd like to opine on this.
Yeah, just from my own personal experience, I think for the most part, the current cell phone policies at each campus are fairly age appropriate. At the high school, I think they're very age appropriate, and there's plenty of discipline in terms of usage of cell phones within the classroom. Like even in a senior class, in my English class, like we have to put our phones up. And I think it's age appropriate at the high school. We have these phone pockets, these giant blue phone pockets that some of my teachers use, others not so much. But I think in high school, especially once you get older, the behavior with cell phones kind of diminishes. I will say when I was in middle school, we were not allowed to use phones. Because I was in the last graduating class at Horseman, we were not allowed to have our phones at all on campus. And I know that that's changed now, and it's now at BV, it's now the same policy at the high school, I believe. I will say that just in my opinion, I think that may have a huge effect. I think not having the phones just, encouraged more, engaging with my friends and stuff in middle school and involvement throughout the school. So I could understand at that age level maybe being a little bit stricter. And then at the elementary schools, obviously, I think the policy is fine. But
I'm open to having a policy. I'd like to have a discussion about what the range of what we're trying to accomplish in which areas around cell phones, because I do believe that as the times change, we need to address how the cell phones are being used and what that means. So is it just the actual physical having your cell phone in class, or how it's being used, or guidelines around what's acceptable behavior and what isn't? I'm curious what you had in mind, but I definitely think it's worth having a conversation and exploring some sort of policy around this.
Thank you. Judy?
Thank you for bringing this up. I'm also open to the discussion. I'd love to hear more about what it is actually trying to accomplish. Will it have the effect? Do the admin think that it will have the effect of the kids engaging in each other more? Or is it part of their paraphernalia and they're using it to engage in each other and it's not an issue? Those are my questions. I think that tech is, in a lot of ways, negatively impacting the kids. I'd love for them to be unaddicted, but I want to know, how does that impact admin? How does that impact, are they working on projects using their phones? So to me, there must be a reason why BV made a switch, and I'm open to hearing about what's the thought process there, and I would love to know the positive and negative of each approach so that we can maybe decide better.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I wanted to bring this up. Mrs. Marcus?
Well, I agree with everything. I would like to examine the policies that really exist. In other words, look at them carefully and see how and I know we got a copy of them, and I was looking at the one for the high school and the middle school and so on, and there are policies there that we have, and I think we need to look at those policies and see if they're doing what we would like them to do. I'm more concerned about the use of the phones. I'm from the year, I'm a little bit, I hate to say this, I'm a little older. No. I don't use phones the way people know. I don't do Facebook. I don't do pictures. I do nothing with that, and I don't know half the time what's going on. So, but I know that this is an issue with the kids, and I'm wondering how much of this is going on in the school and so on. So I think that educationally, the kids need their phones, and they need their phones when they come out of school to check with their parents and so on and so forth. And I know, because I was a teacher, that kids come to my, and the phone would go off. I'd say, put that away. If it went off again, then of course I took it away, and I would take it to the office. They'd get it back at the end of the day. I mean, I had my own, and it was just my own common sense of how to run the class. And I think that the policies we have can address that right now. The only thing is I'm worried about the other uses of the phones during the time that, and I don't know how we can go about controlling that. And of course, to take the phones away from the kids is ridiculous. I mean, that's something that's become a part of them. So I would love to examine the policies to see what they're doing and how they're written and so on, and what they're trying to control. But I'm more concerned about the other use of the phones.
Thank you.
I think that cell phones are a multifaceted issue. I think that there's many different angles to look at it. There's the using it as a social prop, which a lot of kids do, and I don't think is pathological at this point. I've seen kids who I have deemed to be, pretty well adjusted, and they use that phone to share thoughts and ideas and things, and I think that's okay. Where I have a problem is when it is during class time, it is mandatory that children have that. I have problems with that on several levels. One is that as a public school, my understanding is that any technology or equipment that is required for your education should be provided. So now I'm not here to suggest that our district start passing out iPhone 14s, but at the same time, I certainly know of some families who probably aren't happy with that when they know that a certain class is saying, okay, everyone has to get out their phone and do the Jigsaw, Seesaw app or whatever. I think that is unfortunate. I also think that the teachers who have elected to have these sleeves where they go in and you put your phone, I think even if the kids don't admit it, it's actually a vacation for them. It is a respite from a device that constantly runs their life and that they have to respond to. And I think by holding it hostage, at least while instructional time is going on, I think is a gift to our kids. I really do. And if my son is hearing this right now, he's rolling his eyes. But I hope he's not. He isn't. Don't worry. But I think that they can use it. Absolutely, they're not. These phones are part of their lives. They need to communicate with their parents. They even need to look up the homework assignments that are missing. I know that's true. But I would argue that instructional time would be much better served. And the teachers would have a much easier time if those phones just simply were not an issue and they were parked at the front and then you retrieved it at the end. Special Fridays, fine, take out your phone, have free time. But it should not be something that has to be managed by the poor teachers or the kids who have to have one in order to participate in a free and appropriate public education. So,
couldn't have said it better myself. I think the impetus for me to do this is one, see if we can get a stranglehold on the cyberbullying that's occurring within the district, and to make sure that does not occur on our campuses. If they can't use their phone during campus time, they can't do that. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen after. I understand that, but it's something. What can we do? But Michael, I would ask you to really maybe delve in with your administrators and say, what is it that we can do with the policy that will help you guys succeed better in this?
Okay.
That's what I'd like to know, because I think my colleagues have kind of asked that, what really are the needs of the administrators, because I'd like to give them the backup. If it becomes board policy, it becomes stronger. And that's what I'd like to see. And I think Dr. Stern really made some amazing points about it. Phones should never be required in class at any point. And I have heard instances where teachers are asking kids to use their phones. We can't do that.
And I don't know if we can, Bev, can you just show the screen for a second? Because I just want to illustrate the point that this is not, a new problem. And so, this was just a quick photo that I was going to show you 14 years ago when I was a principal. And if I could only share with you how many times we went from having a this is the, have a cell phone policy, it was often put away. And then we looked at how much time we spent as administrators this was when I was a high school principal. And this was, we went the other direction. So it used to be often put away. And then we looked at how much time did we manage with the assistant principals? How much time did we just spend? Because off and put away is almost impossible for these students. And so we looked at the amount of administrative time that we were using. And I met with the students, like the ASB, and this was a result that was in the paper, because this was we thought, okay, we're going to go the other way completely. And we're going to say that basically, you can use it, and it's, up to the teacher, it's classroom management, but it's you can use it, but you have to use it responsibly. But since this time, 14 years ago, I think that we've gone back and forth, at least 10 times, and then different school districts and what's reasonable to expect a student to be able to do, when to turn it off, we started to look at in our administration, and I appreciate the opportunity so that we can have that conversation and then bring it back to the board, is, when are these things occurring? Because what I'd like to know and have a conversation with our staff is that, will that change anything? Because if it doesn't, if we're going to have some sort of where it's off and put away and you can't have them, but it doesn't change the behavior, there's still things happening outside with the cyberbullying, then we're still going to be spending just as much time, because the nexus between what's happening outside of school does impact what's happening inside of school. So, I think it's just making a purposeful decision. I do like the idea of having the backing of the board and a policy. I really do. Let's make it easy, and get the support that we need. But I just want you to understand the back and forth that we've had is really because we think that, we're always going to be able to fix the problem when people are actually addicted to the actual device, and I am too. So it's like can we break free from that, or are we going to be, constantly spending our time disciplining students, taking phones, taking that responsibility that if something happens to that phone, there's a lot that goes with it. But either way, it's the amount of time that we spend disciplining students is, we could be using that time for something else.
Okay, so I think I hear pretty clear from my colleagues that at least we're giving direction for you to talk to your administrators, come back with something, and if you feel the need that a district-wide cell phone policy will help, we'd like to be able to assist in that. It's one of those things where you say, how can I help? That's
great. We love that.
That's what we'd like to do with this. It's so often our school sites have to step into the role of parenting, and we want to make that as easy. You're not going to avoid it, so we want to make it as easy for our teachers and staff to be able to do that. All right, thank you, colleagues. That moves us over to, there is no public comment. I had checked with Ms. Kraushauer, or we had it earlier, I should say. So we're going to do communication from board members and meeting reports. Nothing? Mrs. Wells?
Yes. On Monday, the 23rd, was the LACSTA meeting, and that was in Palmdale, and the subject of the meeting was security and safety, where the Palmdale School District presented their security program and had the captain of the Sheriff's Department, as well as their SROs, speak and their student services. And it was a really wonderful experience being at that school and listening to their security program and how they collaborate not only with the different school sites and within the district, but also with the families and sharing that information. One thing I thought that was really interesting is they do a regular walkthrough with the SRO and the principal, our vice principal, and the school site team on a regular basis, where they, as a community, identify any risks that they've learned in that time period. So it's a sharing of information, and then they can bring that back and follow through on what they've learned. So, you have parents and principals all day long that may see something that the district doesn't see that are potential threats. So that was a great takeaway, but it was wonderful to share the information. It was a really beautiful experience. They had a beautiful dinner. It was very well attended. They had their band playing, and as well they had their mariachi band playing, which was really fun. So it was really fun. And then as a reminder, Beverly Hills will be hosting this meeting on May, hopefully the 18th. We're going to try and move that to the 18th. So I will get back to you on that as well. And the Finance Committee met this past week, and with Raphael and with Sandy Sosi, she gave a presentation on the cybersecurity program, and as well we spoke about GASB, and we had a great conversation around that and moving forward with the Finance Committee will probably come back with some recommendations for the future, but that was nice to see that group back together again. And that's all I have to report. One other thing I would just say from a board comment standpoint, I would say many of the things that I have been hearing in the last week, be it in Palmdale or listening to different school trustees about their programs as well, and many things that we spoke about today, we talk about shared responsibility. And I think that's what we're talking about in so many that is really a theme in so many things that we're talking about and issues that we deal with, and how important it is that for us to achieve our goals, we really have to have our parent community and our students and our teachers and our admin. We need everybody to share responsibility to get all of us to where we want to be it safety, academic performance, having that sense of community. And I just would say that would be what my takeaway of the week has been. So thank you.
Thank you. I also attended the Finance Committee. I'm not going to add anything other than that it was highly educational. and I really did enjoy it. I did attend a few BHUSD events in the last couple of days, and I have so much to share about that. I'm going to try to keep it, quick. I also attended the Mayor's Wellness, and I loved the city district partnership. Just so much work went into that, and it was really such a beautiful energy, and the sun was shining for us right in the nick of time. So a big thank you to the city and all of our district staff as well, the kids who participated. It was so beautiful. The folks at Mad Happy were really interesting and fascinating. The Feel Together vibe, the Feel Together slogan, and the local optimism, as you said, the partnership, to have two BHUSD graduates talk about, being independent minded and really being in control of who you are and your destiny was quite inspiring. So thank you to all of those folks. Then as an 8th grade parent, I attended both the open house for the 8th graders at the high school from Bulldog to Norman, as well as the Zoom this morning. And I cannot thank everyone enough for all of the time and effort that's going into really making sure that these middle schoolers know what's in store for them and what's on the horizon. And we had so many parents fill up the high school cafeteria last week. I believe it was Wednesday night that I was just floored. And to have culinary arts and we speak about culinary arts, but so many departments and staff members supported that school-wide, campus-wide endeavor. It was amazing. So thank you. And just thank you for what you're doing to create the transition from middle school to high school. It's working.
Well, I won't repeat what my colleagues just said on the right because I attended all the very same things that they did. I also attended the Palmdale School, the LACSA at Palmdale, but I did it virtually. I believe Mrs. Wells was there personally because she was able to enjoy the food and so on. I would love to say that she made a point of telling me how good it was. I didn't go. I just want to say that I watched the presentation of the Palmdale safety program to sort of compare it with ours, and I thought, we are pretty good. We've got a pretty good program, and I really thought that we're on the right track. So I want kudos to my friend in the back there, Mr. Mead, and the rest of the safety program. We are really on track. I would say one thing that they did that I thought was really they had a breakout session at the end, and they asked everybody when they're breaking out to what would be the most important component they felt of a safety program, and the biggest word came back was communication, and they do a lot with communication, which Mary pointed out. I also attended the health and safety meeting of the City Commission this week. The fire department report was that many of the calls that they had to do with situations this week had to do with the rain problem. More than half of the calls dealt with situations from the rain. The police report was pretty much, the same kind of report. They talked about the Golden Globes and how well they were able to keep it under. They didn't have any problems. They talked to the recent trespasser up in the northern part of Beverly Hills. It was arrested. There's a new community relations officer. His name is Jeff Newman. And also that the applications are open for the police academy to those people in the city, and if anybody wants to do that, and that commercial robberies are up. The Traffic and Parking Commission, a couple of things that are going on there. There are new bike racks going up around the city, and they're also going to have repair stations where you can repair the bikes and fix them. And there's new enhanced pedestrian crossings going up in the middle of many of the intersections. There's going to be one, for example, on Bedford. I don't know how many of you walk Bedford, but in Beverly Drive, there's the middle of the block and so on. And I think there's going to be some going up on Camden and some going up on Bedford to control for crossing. And Beverly Hills has been recognized as a bike-friendly community. nationally, and they're going to have a transportation and safety campaign with a different theme every month. They were going to be conducting a transportation feasibility study, and they're going to be doing something about a shared bus route around the city. There was reports from the COVID also showing the cases and so on. So, and there's going to be a presentation coming up on emergency preparedness. As for my own personal comments right now, I'd just like to make 2 comments. I know that Mr. Brainwash was mentioned, and I happen to also attend it, and I really want to thank them for making this possible on February 8th, for our students to get a chance to go and visit this, because if they don't, they are making a real mistake. It is amazing, and I was blown away by the artwork and the variety and just everything that's there. And kids will love it because it be something that they can enjoy. And again, also, I'm looking forward to the dance concert on Thursday night. I'm going with my family, my daughter and my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, and myself. So hopefully the reason that she wants to go, and I was going to go anyway, was because she was turned on by the little snippet of it that she got at the school at Beverly Vista. So I want to tell the dance company that when they go out to the schools and put it on, it makes a difference. So keep it up and have a great week. Have a great 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rochelle. I am reminded of how great the dance concert was last year, and I definitely want to go. I can't believe it's already been a year. Wow. I attended the Human Relations Commission, and I want to commend Pam Kroschauer as she was sworn in as an HRC commissioner. And so in her busy life here at the district, she's also putting in some time with HRC. So that was great. In terms of new business that they discussed, they have their annual Civility Month, which is every October. But coming up this week, I believe, or in the first week in February is Kindness Week. They continue to have mental health awareness. And also soon there will be quarterly speakers for a diversity, equity, and inclusion awareness initiative. Along with the city council, they continue to place homelessness and unhoused people as a priority, to humanely manage them and interact with them. Also, there was a motion at the meeting for an anti-hate initiative, and there was also a report from the LA County HRC, which sadly shows that hate crimes have really increased. So in 2000, there were 641 reported hate crimes. In 2021, there was 786. So that is the largest increase since 2002. Sadly, a lot of these hate crimes, not all of them, but a lot of them were actually classified as anti-Asian, which is despicable, and all hate crimes are despicable. But I really appreciate that the HRC makes an effort to highlight some of the things that are going on in our city and ways to make our city a happier place with wellness. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited. In a minute, I'm going to premiere my latest episode of Now No One Knows. I did want to recognize that being tomorrow is February 1st and kicks off Black History Month, I am sure that in our February meetings, we will be discussing that further. But since it is the end of January, and we are looking at those things always as a district. That being said, I'm waiting for the cue from Ricky. Here he comes, running in. But I have filmed... I've filmed 3 episodes. 2 are in the can, as they say. 1 is being edited. I'm just very slow at it, and I'm shooting another one tomorrow. So I'm very excited to have be premiering the second of my Now No One Knows. The first one's been out a couple weeks, so I didn't want to show that again. Always got to go with fresh, and I have something to share with everyone when this is over. Cue me. Okay, then. Let it rip. Here we go. Hi, welcome to Now. Teacher extraordinaire, Ryan Lisco. Ryan, thank you for having me in your classroom today.
Thanks for being here.
How long have you been teaching at BV? Hi, welcome to Now No One Knows. I am here with Beverly Vista Middle School art teacher extraordinaire, Ryan Lisco. Ryan, thank you for having me in your classroom today.
Thanks for being here.
How long have you been teaching at BV?
This is my 17th year teaching.
Wow. Tell us something about yourself that nobody really knows.
I'm an avid outdoorsman.
What am I going to learn?
I'm going to show you how to throw a pot on a potter's wheel.
Were all of these thrown on a potter's wheel?
Some of them were hand built. Can you tell the ones that were thrown on the pottery wheel?
This one?
That was thrown on the pottery wheel.
This one?
That was thrown on the pottery wheel.
Ghost of Cookie Monster?
Ghost of unglazed Cookie Monster.
All right, so let's do it.
So what we have here, Noah, is a centered piece of clay. So as you can see, we place the clay firmly on the bat, not the baseball bat. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take wet thumbs and make an opening. There's a pedal, just like a gas pedal off to your right. And then you're gonna cradle the hands against it and slowly push down with your thumbs while the bat is moving. And then you're gonna stop like about a half inch short from the bottom.
I'm waiting for Patrick Swayze's ghost to start lurking behind me while Unchained Melody is playing in the background. You gotta commit to the push.
And pull your hands slowly towards you with even pressure. Because as it's starting to expand, you'll notice there's these expansion cracks. So we want to kind of get rid of those cracks by putting a little bit of water on it. So the next step is we're going to create a little like cave underneath it. All right, you can slowly take your hand away.
What is the reason to slowly take things away?
So we want these slow movements so it doesn't become out of center. We want to have nice, even, smooth walls. So we're going to take our finger and we're going to slowly drag up that little raised piece of clay. And we're going to have our hand on the inside as well. And as you're doing this, you can see the whole project is kind of rising up. So now we have a sponge. You can go ahead and use the sponge and settle out the outside and hold your hand on the inside and kind of smooth it out so it's nice and even. So we can go ahead and take this tool called the needle tool because it does have a needle on the edge of it.
They really didn't spend time thinking of that name, did they?
No. And you're gonna find the lowest spot, which is right there, and you're gonna slowly bring it in until it goes all the way through it. And then this can just lift
Look
off.
at that.
And then what we can do is you can use your sponge to go ahead and round the edges and make the top nice and clean, nice and smooth. So we're gonna take this tool called a rib. We're going to use this against the edge, and we're going to slowly bring out and make it into a bowl. And we do have a loop tool, so we see a little clay hanger right there. So if you want to insert this loop tool and kind of get that little clay hanger off. So we have this excess clay on the bottom that kind of flares out. We don't want that flare out. We want to actually create like a bowl shape.
Okay.
So we're going to use this tool called a wooden knife, and we're going to go in there and score into it, slowly bring it in, and it'll start to it'll pull off some of that extra clay. So the ancient Sumerians from Mesopotamia, about 4000 BC, are the first ones to start using the potter's wheel.
Wow.
To take it off, we're gonna use this wire tool. We're gonna slowly spin it and use our thumbs and drag our thumbs underneath it. Just do a nice and slow, even pressure. Do not lift up your thumbs. After we do that, we can't put it in the kiln right away. So it has to dry and get what's known as bone dry. This is the kiln, this is it.
And how long is it in the kiln for?
About 12 hours, it does a complete cycle. Do you know how hot the kiln gets to?
Like 800?
About 1800 degrees.
I had the 8 right.
You had the 8 right.
Well, this is amazing. I look forward to seeing the bowl. Mr. Lisco, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, no one knows. A bowl suitable for probably my dog's water. So, because she won't critique me.
Now, how did you choose red? Any reason for the red?
No. Just I pointed and said, yeah, do that one. Echo. Thank you for indulging me. This is available on YouTube, and the link is through the board drop down on the district website. Thank you for Rebecca for posting, helping me post that, and my son helped me shot and edit this last episode. It's trying to keep it all myself, and in all of this, I am learning to master Final Cut Pro. So that's another educational opportunity for all of us. Thank you all, and we will see you in 2 weeks on Valentine's Day. Somebody better bring the chocolate. Meeting adjourned.
Good night.